Hello, it's me, North Shore DM. Welcome to the Superior Adventurers Guild. Yes. This is our new show, Midwinter Keening. We're gonna play some Dungeons and Dragons, kind of in a Norse mythology, Viking kind of thing. It's gonna be great. This is our session 0, so we're making characters, kind of setting some context for things, creating story in that fashion, setting table rules, all those fun things. We've got some new players that you're going to meet. You'll like them. They're pretty cool. They're not the same people that have been here all the whole time. We have some of the old faces too. Yeah, if you're watching this from the future, hey, thanks. If you subscribe to our channel, we'll put out more stuff. If you like it, awesome. I like likes. If you hit the bell, someone will tell you that we're publishing videos. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to Twitch. Welcome to Awkward Me. Let's meet our players. Please God. All right. I don't know if they can see everybody. Can you? Oh, they can see everyone now. Hey, Dave. Hello. We have cool transitions if you didn't see that. So Dave, why don't you tell people who you are?
My name's Dave. I live in Duluth, Minnesota. My favorite color is blue. I'm a Pisces. I like playing role-playing games. I'm in a couple of games here on the channel, including Beyond Saltmarsh and Curse of Strahd and others that we've played one-shots and whatnot. Some fun. We like to have fun. Yeah, I'm here to play a new setting. I'm excited about Svilland. It's fun to be on this side of the table, so to speak. And I'm excited to be a player.
Yeah. Let's meet one of our new faces. Amanda. I almost forgot your name.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I am in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm right on the Leo Virgo cusp, so both apply. And let's see. I am usually a DM for my own home for a game I play with some friends. So this is one of my first times as a player. So it'll be interesting to be on this side of the screen.
Oh yeah. Andy.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
You're a comfortable face for everyone. No, you're not muted.
That's good to know. Since Dave kicked it off with our signs, I'm a Taurus. I live in Brooklyn, New York.
I don't know why I did that.
I grew up originally in Minnesota, so that's how I know Dave anyway.
But where else do you live in New York?
I also
don't give out your address. Though.
yeah, no. I also occasionally frequent Long Island. Sometimes I might be beaming in from out there, but not tonight. What else?
Fun fact: Andy and I met in preschool.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't think we played D&D back then, though.
No, we tried. We tried too when we were in our tweens.
Yeah. Attempts.
Nice.
But it didn't really go anywhere, D&D wise. What else? I also play in our Saltmarsh game and our Curse of Strahd game. And I've never been a DM, so I don't have any experience with that.
Next time.
Someday. All right. Another new face, Ashley.
So I guess what we're supposed to say what our sign is. I'm an Aries. No.
That's just happened that way.
So I don't have experience with with 5th edition, so 5th edition D&D. I've been playing 3.5 for consistently for about 12 years now.
Oh, wow.
So I'm gonna need some help in changing to the new system. And I'm excited for this totally new game with new characters and new races and all kinds of stuff. So cool.
Oh yeah. Michael, why don't you close us off?
Oh,
I
good.
don't know.
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a Libra, just to bring us full circle. Let's see. Gosh, I'm currently residing in northern Appalachia, in Pennsylvania. I grew up in southern Appalachia in the Carolinas. Most of my life, except for the years I spent in Duluth, Minnesota, on the shores of Lake Superior, have been defined by the mountains. So it's either been the mountains or the inland sea. So I don't know what that says about me. I'm usually the DM for most of the groups I run. I've spent most of my time behind the screen. Working with these fine people has been a wonderful experience to get to play, which is having been a forever DM. It's always weird being a player and being like, oh, the perspective is fascinating. I'm really enjoying being able to do that and try and be helpful. And you guys are awesome. That's all I've got.
Awesome. I knew that there was problems that both you and I have, Michael. It's because we're Libras.
Oh my God. So yeah.
Hey, we have a number of other things going on our channel. One of them happened yesterday, and it'll happen again next Wednesday, and that's Beyond Saltmarsh. A really great game. My old character is gone. My new character is smaller than my old character by a little bit. They were both short. It's a fun game right here, Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Dave would like to tell us something else that is, I don't know, a message about our channel. I'm so bad at this.
I like to call them announcements, and I've got an announcement. Unfortunately, Chad left the sad announcement to me. He took all the fun stuff. We will not be airing an episode of Roll Your Doom on the 27th because Chad is going to be raising money for veterans, and I'm going to GaryCon to just do things for myself, which is pretty selfish, but I'm going to do it anyways.
Both wonderful things.
So we'll be back 2 weeks after that, whatever that date is. I'm not going to look at a calendar right now, but that's the update. I think that's it, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as I said, right, this is our session 0. We're gonna create characters. We're gonna do things, set context. But let me tell you a little bit. Dave did mention that the name of this setting, which is called Svilland, they have a really cool book. It looks like this. It's probably backwards for you because that's the magic of cameras, but maybe it won't be. It's published by a company called Dreamwhelm Storytellers. I'm sure there'll be a link somewhere to check it out. Really cool, really good stuff. They've had a couple of very successful Kickstarters, and I like it a lot. And that's why we're going to tell stories in it and use it, and it's going to be fun. It's Norse mythology inspired, a little bit kind of. It's pretty dark. There's some dark stuff in here. Which actually brings me up to one point. There may be some content, not necessarily tonight, but throughout, whenever you're watching this, I'm going to do this every stream. There may be some content that happens that may in recent memory have been absconded by folks who thought that they would force their will upon the world and use traditional iconography for evil, as it were. I'm talking about Nazis. They like to use the runic alphabet and different things from traditional northern Scandinavian countries, the peoples there, for their own means. You might see some of those images here in this game. We're not going to like drop swastikas and stuff, but some other things might happen because that's the context we're playing in, not the Nazi context, but the context of old Scandinavian based stuff. And I assure you that none of us, I'm looking at you, none of us promote that kind of stuff because those guys were jerks and they did a lot of bad stuff. So
And they're going
please,
down for
if you see something that's a little weird like that on here and you're like, wait a minute, that's a thing. Like, it is a thing, but contextually, this is a separate thing.
I believe I speak for the entire crew when I say emphatically, fuck Nazis.
There you go. There you go, folks.
All right. That should be our new tagline.
Yes. All right. So where I have so many windows open, I'm trying to figure out where I want to start from. Boop, boop, boop. You know what? Let's get right to the fun things, the easy parts, perhaps, and let's roll some dice. We'll just get that out of the way. Since we're creating characters, we only really have to do that once. That way we can use the rest of our time to kind of talk, bounce ideas off of each other, and that sort of stuff. So here's what I would like you, my players, to do. You're going to roll stats. Obviously, 6 stats. You're rolling 4 dice of the D6s. Dave, don't try to roll an extra bigger die in there. You're going to drop the lowest dice and only keep 3 dice. As a kind and benevolent DM for now, I would like you to roll 2 sets of those stats and pick one set that you like to define your character. And while you guys are doing that, I should probably cover some dead air so that people aren't just like looking at us roll dice.
That's less entertaining.
It is.
It could be worse. It could be that nightmare I had where, okay, you're rolling stats for this. Roll 2d10. What?
Yeah.
If we don't have physical dice, should we do that on the VTT?
Yes. Andy,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I forgot you don't have real dice. I'm a bad friend.
We're going to ship you some, my friend. That's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is anybody else using the VTT?
I think I'm
could
going
check.
to.
I could check. I could go there. So for those of you who are watching, if you've seen us, if you watched the Altered State game that we played, that I ran, 2-part kind of one shot that we did early February, you will of course be familiar with the VTT that we used in that game, which was the Rune Hammer VTT. Virtual tabletop created by Rune Hammer Games currently for his Patreon subscribers, of which I am shamelessly one of. We will be using that because I like it and it's easy, and sometimes Roll20 is difficult and I don't want to deal with it. And also we're using stuff that isn't necessarily currently in Roll20, and it would take more time of my time to put stuff in. Hey, I want to. There's some giggling, and it might be giggling for bad reasons.
That's evil giggling, and I want to know what
really.
it's about.
It might be giggling for bad reasons. So, as I said, I am a kind and benevolent DM. If you roll less than an 8, please, for the love of all that is holy, re-roll that shit. Less than 8 is no fun. Matt Colville does that. He says, if you roll less than an 8, I don't want to see it. So if it's less than an 8, please make it higher than an 8.
Chad, real quick clarification. 46 dropped the lowest, did you say?
Yes.
And then anything less than 8, re-roll the stat. Did you say re-roll 1s as well? Or no?
Nope.
Okay, got it. And roll 2 sets.
2 sets. Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, Andy's off and running on the VTT. What are you gonna get, buddy?
2 2s.
My first
Ooh, and a 6?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's okay.
Chad, I'm losing my
I'll drop
mind.
the
6
lowest
times or
one.
8 times?
6 stats.
6.
Six stats twice, though, right?
Yes.
Correct. I just got a 13. Oh
That's
boy.
fine. My second set is stupid. My lowest is a 12. My highest is a 15. I'm gonna go with that.
My second set is
my
insane.
Andy,
my first
that's a
set was
re-roller.
so good that I'm almost like jinxed that
Okay.
I'm rolling a second set. So I shouldn't
And
have.
you got to
I
get
should have
those
just
twos and
stopped. I
ones out
shouldn't
of
have
the
even
way.
done this.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
not using the second set in any way, shape, or form. I'm just doing it to prove that I can.
Do it to follow the process because we trust the process.
I used to
We
roll
do.
each set with different
55.
dice.
No, my first set was so good that I'm not even like that's what I was planning on
Fair.
sticking with when I saw it.
Fair if I have a 20, 2 19s, and an 18.
Wow.
No, you have to drop one.
Yeah, so you're only keeping 3 dice.
Oh, okay.
You're rolling 4, keeping 3 dice.
And we do it 5 times, right?
6.
Damn it, Andy,
6
6 times.
Oh, that's right. All right.
There's 6
knew that.
stats, and you're going to roll 2 sets of stats. So ultimately, you'll have 12 numbers.
So like
So
2 plus 1 plus 2
Rolling like
plus 2.
6 20 ciders and then twice. So
no.
no.
Wow, I'm rolling below 8 quite a bit here.
Roll.
Yeah, I'm not doing great so far.
Hang on, everybody. Hang on.
I'm getting
So
my real dice.
we want to roll 4 6-sided dice and keep 3.
Oh,
I am keeping my 12, 13, 15, 17, and 16.
Nice.
Yeah, I reckon.
Oh man, I'm not.
That was my first set. And then I started rolling 8s, and I'm like, no, I'm not keeping the 11s and 12s. Nope. Actually, I rolled a 6. That's why I was laughing.
I'm switching to real dice. I rolled way too many numbers that were below 8.
Yeah, this thing's kicking out a lot of 2s and 1s.
That's better. Yeah, it is.
That's
Uh,
how
I
things
have
happen.
I have an 11, a 9, 10. I have a 9, 10, and 11 so far. That's
Hey.
fun.
It is what it is.
I'm a sucker for stats that are straights, no matter how low they start.
Oh boy. Can you see this?
Nice.
so how
Did you
many
get an
times are
18?
we rolling for? Like how many
Or
for all our
So
17.
you're
stats?
roll 2 sets. So 6 stats twice.
Okay.
Did you say you got a 18,
I did.
Amanda?
No,
Oh,
got a
he
17.
did. Oh, nice.
Now I've
Yeah, my
rolled a
original
9,
when I was
10,
rolling
11,
20
and a 12.
ciders was super awesome.
I bet. I hope so.
I hope. Oh yeah. That's all right. That's all right.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
This is-
neat.
So, viewers, hello, viewers. This Svilland book, this setting, right? I said Norse mythology based. Let me tell you, I'm going to quote York Sproff. Let me show you its features. There are like something like 27 separate character options in this book. More than half of this book is character options. There's new classes, like a bunch of new contextual subclasses for each character class that already exists. 2 of the new classes, one is a Rune Walker. Man, I'm really bad at. I flipped too far. One is a Cedar, Seidr.
Should
Or
we be more like
Seether.
Seether?
Yeah, well, as an American, I have a hard time with double letters.
Well, it's so.
Yeah, and they are like kind of in some places you might call them a shaman or a shaman. Perhaps they deal with spirits, be it spirits of the dead, spirits of the land, spirits of the air. They're super cool. They're really rad. There's also a Rune Walker. So essentially the wizard of this campaign setting. They deal primarily, as I think is obvious by their name, with runes. Of course, given to people by Odin to do with, not really to do with as they will, but there's a lot of different character options that are new and contextual. One of the biggest things that I really like about this setting and the work that went into it is that the writers really went out of their way, I think, to make character options that really set that character in the setting in a really cool way. Something hot take that a lot of other people fail at with their character options. There might be like one or two. No, 27. High bar, baby, high bar. Okay, rant over.
And we're going to be playing 26 of them.
Yes. All at separate times.
Well, I assume with the body count.
All right. Does everybody feel comfortable with their stats?
No,
Did anybody really get hosed?
I got hosed.
How hosed?
I have an 11, a 9, a 10, a 12, a 10, and a 14.
Fuck.
That's not great.
No. That's
Alright.
worse than like the default stats they give you, isn't it?
That is worse than the standard array, yes.
Yeah.
Andy, I'm a kind and benevolent DM. If the group is willing, I will
You got to keep them.
roll you a set of stats. But if you take this option, you must keep the set of stats that I roll for you.
Place your hands in the
So we're not-
All-Father and take up your fate. Let him roll for you.
You know what? I'm going to take it. I'm going
All
to take
right.
You
it
definitely should. You
All
definitely
right.
should.
because you couldn't have rolled. You can't roll any worse than
Say that out loud. Why would you have said that out loud?
that.
Don't challenge me, because I roll some pretty good stats sometimes, and
Sometimes the shit.
sometimes I don't. I have too many dice in this dice bag.
You have the worst problems.
This is only one of my dice bags.
I don't think the words too many and dice go together.
You are
Oh,
correct.
Grammatically,
There is
I
no
don't
such
think
Do
that
thing.
not.
works, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right. So we'll just use some dice. Okay. That's an 11.
You're right on track.
That's a 10.
Things are falling off my
Hmm.
desk here.
Ooh, there's a 12. We're going
Hey.
up, baby. We're going up.
Wait, so far, same.
Come on. Come on.
13.
There we
I'm
go.
not even lying. How
Come
many is that?
on.
That's 4. Here's the
Yeah.
number 5. Ooh. A 10.
It's worse than the last one. Andy's going to play a
15.
commoner.
A 15. Yeah.
He's playing a farm boy commoner.
Yeah.
Hey, Luke Skywalker became a Jedi Knight.
That's true. That's true. That's absolutely true.
Oh, I'm starting at level 5.
It's
Uh,
it's
Did
a
we get-
little better than mine. It's
Did we
like
get
1 or 2
permission to
better.
start at level 5?
No,
I'm
he's-
taking it.
Only
He's-
I'm
Michael.
kidding. I'm kidding. Level 1.
he's yeah. Yeah,
Do
don't
not take me
don't
seriously.
take most
please.
of things that come out of his mouth seriously.
No, most of you yet. I just know Chad and Amanda.
Then we have had a learning experience. Please don't listen to me.
I don't.
Wow.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay. Now let me. Bum, bum, bum. All right, where? Okay, nope. I don't want that. I don't want that. Awesome. Okay. So what we're gonna do now, folks, a little behind the scenes. Obviously, everybody has had a small amount of time to already think about characters, and I think everybody already has a pretty good idea as to who their character is or who they want their character to be, and what class and ancestral variants that they will be playing. That's correct, right, everybody? I remember from talking to at least all of you that is in fact true. So why don't we go around? We're going to go Andy, Michael, Dave, Ashley, Amanda, because that's how you are on my screen. Oh, I do have the other. Anyway, we'll go around and just kind of tell us all what kind of class that you will be playing. And then if at first level that class has a subclass option, let us know that. And if you feel comfortable with the fact that you will survive to second or third level where you would choose your, I'm kidding, you'll probably survive that long. Just tell us what subclass option that you might want to that you might want to get. And if it's if it's straight out of the Svilland book, which I think everybody's is, and you are comfortable with talking a little bit about what that subclass means, contextually, feel free to do so. Andy,
Hey, how's it going?
hey,
I'm going to play the Rune Walker wizard. And I'm going to be very squishy with bad skills.
have you decided yet what subclass you're going to make yourself into?
I think I'm going to go for... I think I'm going to go for the Rune Scribe.
Nice.
What is a Rune Walker?
They are the Svilland specific like class that they made, which is kind of a variation of a wizard. I don't know how to summarize them, I guess.
Their big shtick is instead of casting spells in the way that D&D wizards cast spells, they power them. They invoke the names of runes for magical effects. They have some cool. There's a whole bunch of different variations. Some of them carve runes into their flesh and kind of sacrifice their life essence, much like Odin did upon the boughs of Yggdrasil. And some of them, the rune scribe, they just kind of, they're kind of, I guess, booky, and they learn about stuff and catalog things and are really cool in that way. And the other one is a little bit, it's called the Rune Weaver. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't really read that one a lot. So it probably does something to do with weaving and fate, I would imagine.
Yeah, with that one at second level, you can start to weave conditions or triggers into runes that you cast. For example, you can say like activate shield spell on me when I'm attacked by a physical attack. So it's like you can.
That's so dope.
Yeah, and it kind of just sets itself off, I guess. But
yeah.
And then there's other things that start up at 6th level.
We won't get into that. We won't get into that now. But yeah, Michael, tell us a little bit about the character type that you will be playing.
My character will be Gundur Tryggvason. And
specific.
He is an Ale, which is the equivalent of paladin in the Svilland setting, but paladin, of course, is a late period Franco-Norman word, so they don't call them paladins; they call them Ales, or Ales. I'm doing what is actually called out in the text of the book, which I deeply appreciate, which is when you are an Ale of a god. You're taking your oath to that god, not like a weird set of tenets. So you kind of have to have decided that at first level, even though you don't get the benefits until later, which just makes narrative sense. So he is going to be an Allah of Thor. So he is a man with an easy laugh and the ability to call down the thunder should it be necessary and beat the out of things.
Nice. Dave, what sort of person
playing,
are you?
Yeah, I'm going to be playing Vidar Gormson, and he is of Mythal descent. I chose to play the Ranger in this setting because I know that this setting is harsh environmentally, and that it would be a pretty utilitarian sort of way to go. He does have the option of specializing in a subclass that Dream Realm Storytellers put together specifically for this setting called Scotty. He worships the goddess Scotty, who is the goddess of the winter, goddess of archery, goddess of, I think I've even seen things about her being the goddess of like snowshoeing and hunting. And so he will use skis at some point. He'll be doing some cross country skiing. I like to stay fit, and I couldn't think of a better way to do it. He does have an interesting backstory that we'll get into, but what I'm thinking is that he has grown up in this community as a thrall of one of the well-known ranger groups in the area, and that's where he learned his skills of survival and hunting, and also learned his appreciation for some of the local gods. And I don't know how much more we need to get into right now, but that's the
good
basics.
for now. That's good for now. Yeah. Ashley, what kind of person are you going to be playing in this here game?
So I ran several characters by Chad. He threw down 2 of them, and so now I'm on my 3rd character. Yeah.
Let's be fair though. I only really threw down 1 of them. The other one was like a half throwdown.
Fair enough. So I am gonna be I think you said Gothi is how you pronounce it. So that's a healer. My character's name is Astrid. I think the race is Asturi. The blonde, charismatic one. She is not originally from Mulder, but she's been there for a few years, and she kind of does odd jobs around town, helping out like the other healers and herbalists and things.
Ooh, our characters will be friends.
Yeah. So she worships, or she's of the Gothi theme of Maine, Mein.
I'm not actually even sure how to really say that one.
Maine. It's Maine, or maybe
just
mean, depending. Mean.
Perhaps they worship Balder. Balder was originally the god of light. He was the most beloved son of Odin and Freya, and he was terribly tricked by Loki and is now in Helheim.
To quote a actual passage from like one of the sagas about that, Balder is good.
Yep.
That sums it up.
Right, as far as you know.
I'm just quoting the Voluspa. I don't know. Old Norse dude wrote it.
Right.
Awesome. All right. Amanda.
Hi. I am going to be playing Paya. She is a cunning woman who has been released from her thrall. She is middle-aged. She has spent most of her life, actually all of her life since she was a small child, working as a midwife. And her midwifery is actually inspired by a bardic tradition. So she is able to bring life into the world with following the tradition of Ofrid. Men go to war because they need to find a way to deal with the pain and the blood and the gore of childbirth. And she is just going to be bringing all of that all of the feminine warriorness of just bringing all y'all into this world.
Nice.
That's kind of where she's at. There's not enough goddesses of spring and birth in this world. They're probably secret. She has some old-time connections. But Freya, for everyone who asks.
Fantastic. I love it. So I'm sure if you're watching this, you'll have a bunch of questions like, what the hell were some of those words that we put out, like Austri and whatever the one that Dave said?
Mean and Scotty?
No, Mythal.
Oh, Mythal.
Yeah.
I forgot to say I was going to be Mythal too, I believe.
That's
I'm
all
also
right.
Alstri, so
So we're gonna start. Let's start creating a little context. So to set the overall stage, right? There's 3 kingdoms in Svilland, which we will be playing the easternmost kingdom. That's right. I just had to do never eat soggy Wheaties in my head. It wasn't really in my head because I did it out loud. The easternmost kingdom, which is frankly called Green Lights of the East, which is kind of a cool name, I think, for a kingdom. It is populated primarily by the folk called Austri, or however you want to pronounce it. It doesn't matter. Who are, really kind of present very traditionally Scandinavian, blonde, all that kind of stuff. Their closest neighbors, the the kingdom of, I'm so bad at my own game. I have it. It's right here.
Like you had to learn everything from one book.
I know, right?
It's not like Tolkien where you're like, I watched the movies and like I read the books and
The kingdom of Alsvarter is primarily where the Mythal are from. They're more of a dark-haired, slightly dusky complexion, a little bit, perhaps a reddish as well. One of the images in the book of a Mythal looks convincingly like one of the bad guys in that Swedish Viking silly show, Norseman.
You mean Vikings?
No, Norseman.
Well,
The
Norseman's
one that's
much
actually
better.
made in Sweden. I think it's made in Sweden. I don't know. It might be Norway, but it's hilarious. And they're descendant followers of the Bear King, who was a cool person in history, who has a dope name. The country to the west is populated by folk called the Vestry. That country is called Neomin. It's very much a sort of stereotypical actual go a Viking kind of place where people go a Viking, aka they go on sea raids and do all those sorts of things. There are people that populate this land called Kuning, Kuning. They are some of the original people who populated Svilland. The folks who are now Austri, Mythal, and Vestry all emigrated to this land at some time, running from the Black Winter, which is a little bit, a really bad winter and a little bit kind of an evil like force in a way. The book is unclear about it, and man, I really like it as like a kind of a slow moving like evil force that is like its own like separate thing. We'll probably delve into some of that. There's also Dvergar, um, who come from another place and are stuck here because the gates are closed, and half Jotun, who are of course half giant, and they'll mess you up because they're big. But they're nice. So one of the things that I want to do, just to set everybody straight, I've told my players this: I'm really less interested in a lot of racial tensions. In many ways, there are considerations for how we think about each other. And I'm not really super interested in dealing with all of that. We might deal with some like cultural tensions, but not a whole lot of racial tensions because we get enough of that in America right now, or wherever you live. It's probably there. Yeah. Let's create a little bit of context. A couple of you have mentioned that you are or were thralls. Dave is still a thrall. His character is. And Amanda, Paya, I wrote it down, is a former thrall. would any of you like to briefly explain what a thrall is? Or can you completely?
A thrall is a kind of indentured servant,
Mhm.
or in my case, more of a spoil of war. So, Aya was kind of alone. Maybe not alone, but she didn't have much family, and her village was sacked at some point. And she was taken as a spoil of war, as one of the prisoners within the sacking of the village. She was taken alive, but she had skills. And with her skills as a midwife, she was still considered property of the estate, but was left to, or was sent out to assist in births. And at a certain point, somewhere in this community, in this context, she facilitated a birth with the successful outcome of those that were in power, and was given her freedom. And therefore, she then got the heck out of wherever that was, and ended up at this kind of end of the world town.
Yes, that is an excellent description of what a thrall is, and I love it. Your backstory is cool so far.
Thank you.
This town, it is called Mulgore. In the book, it is also known as the last town because it is the last town in the north of the Kingdom of Greenlights of the East. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's mountains and haunted forests, old weird ruins nearby. It's ripe for craziness and adventure, which is why I picked it. Because I wanted to, and I can make those decisions. So the rest of you, where? So Ashley, your character, a Gothi, a cleric, in this case of the god Balder. How how do you feel about your handle on, say, that strata of the social structure? That was a fucking weird question.
How do you feel about thralls?
No. Of Gothi, like where like this is a very
Like
kind of
holy people would be in the
yeah.
hierarchy. I'm
You have
not
no idea?
sure from reading
No
how they would.
worries.
I mean,
I know how-
probably treated well in general, but there's a lot of like they seems to be open to a lot of different gods, as long as they're good gods in the pantheon. So I mean, and I had asked you early on, like, would I get along with a Gothi of a different god in town? And you were like, oh yeah, you guys are just fine. So I don't think it's a big deal. So
Yeah.
Amanda, is your character also a Gothi, or like what is your like class?
She's a bard.
No, I'm a bard. I'm a
You're
bard.
bard. Okay. I was
I'm
like,
a bard.
I
So
wrote down a bunch of stuff and I was like, none of these is actually
No, so
like a
tradition
character
of
class.
Alfred is the bardic tradition is a lot of war rallies and war chants. And so and a lot of drumming. So part of my bardic tradition is I've always been using drums and breaths and chants with a lot of involved in coaching someone through this process. I also have always included the men who want to name any man who cannot tolerate being an active bloodied member of a birthing process is someone I would consider a general who's never been on a battlefield.
Nice.
Which in my mind is an insult.
Nice. I like that. That's cool.
So you shoot out your little pawns in your battle. And you can't deal with the aftermath and the cleanup. Some man you are.
Nice. I wrote that shit down. That's good.
I like it.
Yeah, so Svilland is a kind of in many ways a very religious forward or a very spiritual forward kind of place. Following the traditions of gods, the holidays, the feast days, the sacrifice days is something very important to the people of Svilland. And it's a part of the storytelling I'm going to really try my best to kind of work into pieces of. And so I guess in many ways, Gothi and Ale in Ale, or however the hell you said it, in your own ways, have they're not quite like outside of the social strata of essentially like the rulers and the ruled, but they are in some ways kind of apart from those contexts. They have their own kind of special place.
If I can.
Yes, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit about
it's I didn't realize what anybody else's characters are, and I'm already going, there's going to be fun pre-existing relationships, because the way I see, especially in Ala or Paladin, is they are kind of a little bit outside the social structure for politeness sake. Like, it's wonderful that you have someone who can call down lightning, or, I don't know what horrifying things a cleric of Maine does, but they're probably amazing. It's like, you want them around, but they're probably not the people you want, like, just hanging out all the time, especially from a political social view, depending. So kind of how I envisioned it with my character Gunder is I leaned really heavily into, a mechanic turned into RP, which is a first level paladin can touch someone and give them back 5 hit points or cure a disease. So it's, Gunder is by definition someone who is a little bit popular, and by definition knows the healers and those who are involved in childbirth, because yes, please keep the guy around who, if someone is bleeding out after a birth, can just touch them and it stops. Or someone who's contracted a terrible illness in the woods comes out, he can just walk over and bless you with the power of Thor and your disease is gone. These are literal miracles, and he's a man you want in town, but he is not a man that is necessarily integrated well into the social structures.
Yeah, the hard part of that healing is it comes at the end of a lightning bolt.
It's a little tingly. So, for example, my thought on Gunder, and Gunder is, I've stolen some story beats from other stories that I'm sure you'll put together very quickly, is he is from the town. His parents died when him and his sister were in their, like, 8 or 9 years old. There was an aunt and an uncle. The aunt took in the sister. The uncle took in the son. The uncle then promptly left town because he was in some debt. And 10 years later, Gunder comes back and he's a paladin and doesn't really like to talk about anything that happened. And that was years ago. So he's accepted back into the town as a member of the community. But like, he pointedly lives in a house outside the walls, both because, if I'm in, out here, if there's trouble, I can respond immediately. And because also that makes everyone's life a little easier, because lightning is wonderful. Being struck by lightning is not.
Yeah.
I can see your character and my character being friends, because I showed up about 2 to 3 years ago in town and I am not related to anybody. So I showed up probably around 16 and like without like relatives. So like, as somebody who's been abandoned and like basically left to, live on their own, like, we probably would have become friends.
Gunder would absolutely been the person go, hello, you are new here. Can I help you? Are you okay? Do you need things? We can find you places.
Right.
Just because he's a happy and wants to help people kind of guy, and then also can summon lightning. It's a strange comparison.
Nice. Hello, Dave. Your character's the Thrall. Your character's a cool ranger. Tell us a little bit more about it. You talked a little bit about how you were a Thrall of. Did you? Man, I forgot all of what you talked about.
I'll
but
jump in.
yes.
You're not expected to memorize everything, Chad. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Oh,
memorize
man.
everything.
No, it's not possible.
I can't wait
I
to
believe
get
you
a
can.
book so I can bookmark things better.
I know.
I know.
So, Vidar. He was young when he was brought to this community, similar to, I think it was Ashley's character, or Ashley's character. He was taken as sort of plunder of a raid that happened to the west. Was that Paya?
Paya was
Paya.
taken as
Paya,
plunder.
yeah. So he was similar. He was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old when that happened. His family was killed during that raid, but some of the men who were there as part of this Gorm's Rangers sort of faction took him for reasons not fully known to Vidar. But during that sort of life of being an indentured servant or slave to Gorm and his family, the value that he provided to the family really made him become sort of an endearing member. And he was, for all intents and purposes, sort of adopted by Gorm and started to learn the ways of the Rangers. And so the relationship that he has with Gorm, while yes, he is at this point probably about 16 or 17 years old, still a thrall, he is to the point where Gorm is encouraging him to branch out a little bit, and with the idea that he can become his own man, and potentially, the idea of being a free man has been sort of talked about. But he has very much taken on the religious sort of practices, the ritualistic practices of Gorm and his family. He has become a valued member of Gorm's Rangers, albeit at probably a somewhat restricted level because he is so young. But nonetheless, that's the case. Now, he does have a connection to his past that Chad and I talked quite a bit about. And I don't know if we'll get into that at some point. So there's this connection to his grandmother that I think will be important. But yeah, so he's definitely still a thrall, but he's got that loving sort of father-son relationship going on with Gorm and his family.
Awesome. Andy, hello.
Hey.
Andy, I'm going to use you as my guinea pig.
Oh boy.
But it's okay. It'll be gentle, I hope.
All right.
Now, you're a Rune Walker, right?
Yes.
A wizard of the runes.
I admittedly don't have as much of my backstory fleshed out right now.
That's
I
why
have
I'm using.
a
That's
few
why I'm
things,
using
but-
you as my guinea pig.
All right.
Nice.
So, do you see yourself as a Carl, aka a freeholder?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic!
I
That
was
was easy.
gonna go with
Okay.
the Carl background.
Well, that was easy. Okay,
Yes, 100%.
awesome. So you or your family own land.
Yeah.
Maybe farm. Maybe you're fisher folk. For those of you who are watching, the town of Mulgore is near a river and is known that people fish. Also, if you're watching and you're like, oh, some of the things that you're about to say take a lot of liberties with what's in the book. It's my freaking game. I can change things a little bit if I want. I'm gonna make it fit my story.
The DM is always right.
That's not always the case, especially in my game.
Most of
That's
the time.
very rarely the
The
case.
table is right.
But all right, so you're a Carl. So are you yourself like an adult freeholder, like you hold land, or are you like it turns out many of the other party members, maybe a little younger, and still live with your family, and they're ultimately farmers or whatever it is that you do?
What kind of little I've kind of thought through so far is that he is not the primary, I guess, like his father is the one that is like the real Carl of the family, I guess, and he is like He has multiple siblings, and he's one of the youngest ones, so he
Okay.
has not been pressured to continue the family business. He's kind of like a little bit on the outside of like the family decision making.
Okay.
So he's kind of like pursuing his own thing, basically. And one thing I didn't really know is, being that this is a smaller town far to the north, like would they really have like an institution that he would like be able to learn some of this stuff at? So I didn't really
Yes.
imagine him as being
Yes.
from Mulgore. I imagined him as being from like a larger city to the south somewhere.
So I in your in the map on the VTT, which is a map that I created of the town of Mulgore. If you scroll in, if you zoom in just with your scroll wheel on your mouse, there's that point down on the bottom right hand corner of the town.
Oh yeah.
And then there's the wall kind of connects to a tower, a round tower. Just up from that round tower is like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-sided building that you can see there. In
Yes.
the wonderful map making software that I used to make that map, which
Looks
is
good.
which is called,
Did you incarnate?
it's what's it called? Incarnate. Thank you. See, this is the problem with me being on camera. I don't remember
That's
things.
right.
In Incarnate, that building is actually a rune carver's building. That's what it's called. So there is, because I figured that there would be a person who was a rune carver, and I wanted people to be connected to town, that there is a person who is a rune carver in town that you could, in this case, perhaps apprentice to or learn from. Or, I mean, also it is still your character, so it could be that you just, you're fucking called by Odin. The runes, they speak to you in your sleep. They're like, hey, we're runes, man. Do magic.
Right.
Go forth, do magic.
Go forth, do magic. Yeah. That's how Harry Potter did it. That's how Granddad did it, and it's works pretty well so far.
Right.
Wait, that's how Granddad did it. That's how America does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean.
That's Iron Man, wrong Marvel movie.
Whatever. That's cool. Iron Man, Harry Potter. they're all the same. They're not all the same. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that, Andy?
Pretty good.
You want to be the apprentice to that guy or girl, whoever that person is?
I would say at this point, I'm kind of looking, maybe I was, and I'm kind of reaching the end of my apprenticeship, and it's time to start branching out, I guess, on my own.
Damn, dude, you got magic missile. You're ready to be a big boy.
Yeah, like he's ready to like go adventuring and like
that's what everybody thinks.
Seeking out other runes on his own.
Okay.
I'm first level. I'm ready.
Yeah. I'm ready to get out there.
Hit point and proficiencies.
All right.
I mean, already, like if you think about magic.
Yeah, no, I get it.
If you're able to shoot fire bolts from nowhere, you're already kind of a badass, even though you have like 12 hit points.
You're a big boy.
You know, so like
you put your pants on one leg at a time.
You have magic that can kill people.
Prestidigitation. I can make your food taste good. I'm a wizard.
Right.
All right.
So he's kind of he's got an opinion of himself, I guess you could say.
So you're a little hot-headed.
He comes from this like more well-off family, you know. So
you think highly of yourself.
Yes, he does.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down. All right, let's do a little bit of world building. I'm gonna put you in the spotlight. I might put the rest of you in spotlights later. Andy, tell us a little bit about this person who taught you about the runes.
He's hadn't thought about that much at all.
I know.
I would say here. I would say he's old.
Okay.
Because he spends so much time with the runes, researching the runes, mixing spell components. He's a little bit of a shut-in, and because of that, he often smells like weird things. He doesn't groom himself very well, and you know, that kind, old grizzled kind of guy. But like he respects him. He just doesn't see, like, that's why he kind of wants to get out there on his own. He feels like he respects this guy, but at the same time he doesn't want his life to be like his.
What's his reputation like in town? Is he well respected? Is he powerful and tolerated, but people are like, he's the guy, we put up with him because he knows magic?
Yeah, I mean,
is he known as like a lecher? Does he have any weird quirks like that?
Yeah, he lives way out here. It's not like he's in the village with everybody else. So he's kind of out on this like, he's respected because people know he's like, he has abilities and he can help out in strange and mysterious ways. But he kind of keeps to himself out there on the point, where it's like windy and cold. Nobody likes being out there.
That is a river.
Oh, it's a river. Yeah.
That might not be the most up-to-date map, which I realized that it doesn't look so much like a river, so I had to make things a little smaller.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Scale is amorphous.
Maybe he has his house out there in case he blows himself up with a fireball or something.
Conscientious individual.
Or he just likes fishing.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess that's
that's great.
I haven't thought too much about that particular guy yet, but
that's great. This is the kind of stuff I like.
Wait, so you guys don't all have like 5-6 pages of backstory and like a Pinterest page?
I intentionally did not do that this time.
I do, but I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
It's all in notes on the side. I'll give it to Chad.
I've definitely done that before, but I'm not doing that this time. I decided.
I mean, I'm not telling you guys everything, but yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, some of you will have secrets, and that's okay. Some of you might have secrets that your characters know that you want to tell the other players, but their characters don't know. And some of you will have secrets that only you and ideally me know about. And that's
in the background questions.
And that's fine. Yeah. All right. No, that was great, Andy. That was fantastic. Now let's do a similar exercise. We're gonna not start with Andy, but we might end with Andy because we're gonna do very similar things. One of the things that I wanted to do for those of you who are watching is really try to build context, community, and reasons for these players as characters to have a connection to town, to be in town, to stay in town, that sort of thing. So let's start with Dave. Dave, aside from Gorm, because you've already talked about him and we know about him, tell us somebody else in town who is not in the party that you have a great relationship with.
Well, he doesn't have many, to be quite honest with you. He doesn't really like being in town that much. Maybe it has to do a little bit with how he's looked upon as an outsider, perhaps. Maybe the townsfolk don't see as much value as Gorm and the Rangers do in this particular individual. He's young. He does have a bit of a relationship with Heldora at the Storytellers Inn. She happens to be, from the notes that you provided us, a bit of an herbalist, knowledgeable in herb lore. And as a ranger, Vidar has part of the background that he has. He does have herbalist proficiency with herbalist tools, herbalist kit. And so he has been essentially learning from her when he's out afield, wandering the wilds with the rangers. He will oftentimes find new herbs or perhaps species that she's looking for that he already knows of, or strange species of plants that he doesn't know of that he will bring to her to have a learning opportunity. But he also not knowing a whole lot about Haldora and who she is beyond that, I don't want to get too far into it, but he certainly is a young man with interests in the opposite sex. And so that might be part of his, one aspect of the relationship that he is pursuing or maybe interested in. But the biggest mechanical part is that he's learning herb lore from Haldora. And so he has a pretty good relationship with her.
I wrote down maybe into her in quotation marks. So I knew that that's what it meant.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He'll, at some point he might slip her a letter that says, do you like me? Check here. Or are we just learning about, plants? Or maybe he'll bring her a sprig of mistletoe at some point and kind of hold it up.
Plants.
Yeah.
Only if he has consent, because he is very much a honorable and forthright young man.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the way that I'm playing him, is a bit of a lawful, without getting too far into like alignments. He definitely has a bent of sort of the importance of structure and rules, and the Rangers really live by, that's why they can survive, is because they have a set of a code, if you will, that they live by. Yeah.
That is such an awesome take on Rangers. That's amazing, and I love it.
Thank you.
Let's go to Ashley. Ashley, hello. Please tell us about someone your character, Astrid, has a relationship with, who's not in the party. It can be the same person. And just to
actually funny because as a healer, I was like, well, I'm either going to be like close friends with the herbalist in the story. I mean, I actually thought originally like, I would do odd jobs for her, and like maybe I could have like a back room in the inn or something that I could live out of, like as doing odd jobs and things. So I don't know if I like how exactly would want to play that, but Chad hasn't really weighed in on like whether or not I can, or like what she's like, or any kind of stuff like that.
It might provide an interesting connection between our characters too. The fact that we both have a relationship with this individual could be sort of that connection point. So just a thought there.
Right. I mean, we're probably two girls around the same age, so like it makes sense. We would like go out, gather herbs together or something, like wouldn't really necessarily want to go solo in the fields by yourself,
That's fair. There's wolves out there.
That's why you befriend a ranger, a young ranger boy.
So let me ask you this question, Ashley. How would you like Haldora to be? Like, give us like maybe a personality trait. Give us a little personality trait. What's she like?
Tell her
of Haldora. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about her.
I would say that she is like she's really nice. Like, I mean, she like people just generally like her. She's warm. She's nerdy about herbs. Like she wants to help people. But also like it is a business. Like this is how she's making her money. So like there is a line of that, to it as well.
Nice. I love it. Michael, hello.
Hi.
Are you also related to Haldora?
I'm not really. Was going to be, but I think it's no. The actual.
And remember, and just for the rest of you, also for Andy, I did provide some characters that I made up that might be in there. There are characters that are referenced in the write-up about Mulgar. You are also completely free, like Dave, to create somebody out of thin air, because Gorm doesn't exist until Dave created him. If you want to be friends with the town drunk, whose name is Bjorn or whatever.
Now I
That's
want to
also
be.
cool too. Yeah, you can make
That's a
this
good
is
idea.
this is your story too. So you guys can
Canon.
make whatever update you want.
We're all friends with the town drunk.
Every town
old
has a town
Bjorn.
drunk whose name is Bjorn.
Were you going to ask someone in town he's attached to?
Yes, please.
He's actually very attached to his sister, Sigrun, who, while he left town when he was a child, she stayed with the aunt. The aunt is now passed, but Sigrun, and who is married to a man whose name I didn't bother making up, and has
We'll get to it
children with.
later.
Yeah, they live in a farmstead, just outside the walls. They have a lovely, as close to idyllic, old Norse Viking style life you can have. So
Blood, sweat,
he's
tears, that sort of stuff.
yeah. I mean, it's as nice as it's gonna get, but they aren't starving, and they have an uncle who can call down lightning sometimes for funsies.
Yeah.
So he's he's very attached to like that and the family roots. Like I partially envision that by the time he got back to town, his actual family, cabin or longhouse, whatever it was, had kind of fallen apart, and he moved in, fixed it back up, and that's where he lives now, which is different from where his sister lives. Sudden related question. My character's mid to late 20s. Am I the oldest character? No, Pia.
No.
Okay. Okay,
Paya.
good.
Yes.
Paya.
Paya, sorry.
Paya.
Is
Paya.
middle-aged.
I heard
Paya. I am
she's
very
early
much
20s, I was
middle-aged.
like,
She's securely 32.
No. I'm closer to 42. I'm almost old, but actually I am probably almost old.
For that.
Actually,
yeah,
42 is probably
period.
about right.
nah,
Yeah,
for that period,
like-
as long as you made it past 5, you were pretty unkillable.
That's true.
Yeah,
true.
no. Can I go next?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're
So
awesome.
everyone has been talking about the Storytellers Inn. I'm middle-aged. I am 42, about 42. I also came from out of town, and I'm a little bit of a militant kind of feminist. I don't fit in well in tradition. So, but I up very well with Absalon and his storytelling. I might have more magic than him, but we have a similar kind of tradition. People might think that we are kin, and therefore his daughter is also not, we don't have a traditional marriage, but we kind of, we're both single, middle-aged people who spend a lot of time together. And so all of you youngins that are very good friends with my not quite stepdaughter, if you need a mom, I also have had no children of my own. As much birth as I have never given birth myself. I have been married, and my husband disappeared, and that was before I got. Yeah. People decided, he was, for all records, he was considered dead. And he left of his own free will.
That doesn't sound ominous at all.
So
Nice. Oh, I'm
I mean,
gonna tweak
there's
that
a lot
shit
to
real
do.
hard.
There's a lot to do with that. I can tell you more about him, but I don't know if the whole party needs to know all about this.
No, that's all right. I like it.
Getting,
So
old school
let me just
Witch vibes, and I love it.
So let me just ask you straight up, because you annotated some things there, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same, or at least I'm on the same page. You are in a relationship with Absalon.
In a relationship, whether or not it's sexual is
Okay.
something that, no two people know what goes on in a marriage. Everyone assumes we're not legally married, but everyone assumes that we're married.
You may or may not be physically involved, but you are at least socially involved.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
kin somehow, however that works one way or another. But you know how like old people won't get married because it ruins their social security?
Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, it's absolutely a thing.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
it's not quite the same thing, but it's also what is, we're both considered we're not of childbearing age
Sure.
necessarily. So And he
Fair
couldn't
enough.
marry me because I haven't had children at this point in time. So, I mean, I might be more of a stain. Even if he wanted, whatever happened to his original wife. I'm not going to steal that if that's what he wants. So,
All
but
right.
we're close. And so his daughter is sort of I mean, by the time I think I've been around for maybe 5 or 6 years. So she was
Okay.
probably about 12 or I don't know how old. I think she's about 17. She was about 12 when I came in. And, like any 12-year-old who doesn't want a stepmom. And I didn't really want to be a stepmom, but I didn't have to be. Now she's 17 and she likes me a lot more than she did at 12. And she might have brought some of her young friends over to hang out, to meet her.
So like Gilmore Girls.
Kinda. Yeah. So I probably
Just
know.
without the
Actually, I
movie
forgot your character's
trilogy.
name. Astrid. Oh, Astrid. Astrid probably knows me. I don't know what she thinks of me at this point.
Fair enough. Well, we'll work into that. We'll work into that. Let's get to Andy. Hello, Andy.
Oh, hey, yeah.
Tell us somebody who is not the Rune guy, who you are also close with in town.
I didn't delve too much into that.
Make it up right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
I'm
my
putting
older
you
brother.
on the spot.
Favorite uncle or
Yeah, my older brother, the one that's like kind of destined to take over the father's business.
Okay. What's your older brother's name?
We'll call him Eric.
Okay.
With a K.
K? Okay. I was just
Yeah.
gonna ask.
Andy, what's your character's name?
I'm going back and forth between a few, but I think it's gonna be Stig.
Okay.
Nice. That's a good name. I like that name. All right. Tell us a little bit about Eric. He's your older brother, right? So is your family are you guys farmers? Do you guys have a farmstead? Do you fish? Are you fisher folk?
I hadn't really thought about that. I think I would say that he's probably, I don't know, I kind of imagined them more as like merchants.
Okay. Oh, there's
way.
room for buyers and sellers.
But I didn't settle on a particular business. So
okay. Well, I'm gonna write down merchants for now. And
right.
if you decide that you want to do something else later, let me know. But
I mean, as a Carl, does that mean they own land?
Ultimately, you own land.
Mm-hmm.
You have whether you use it for farming or whether you realistically, whatever the hell you want to do with it. It's your land, right? But yeah, so and it might be you have a nice you have a good house building. Somebody probably grows some food that you consume from your land. Whether or not you do that, to sell to others, or if you do other things, that's separate. But yeah, you are landowners, as it were. Awesome. I love. How's everybody feeling? Like this is okay. I know Andy is a little uncomfortable with me making him make up stuff, and that's okay.
That's right.
I'm gonna continue doing it.
That's how I wanted to do it. I wanted to just I just wanted to make it up as I went. So
this is exactly what it feels like when Amanda's character is yelling about birth. This is we are giving birth to your character right now.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I have a number of questions that I sent to all of you. I'm going to kind of skip around, so we won't come up against all of this live. If you have looked at this questionnaire and filled stuff out, awesome. You can send it to me later if you want. I'm mostly telling this for the audience because some people have asked me to publish this document to the internet so they can see what it looked like, because they were interested in my process. But I'm going to skip around because we only have so much time. And and Dave has reminded me that we will do a break. I'm going to do one more question set. It'll be a kind of a hopefully a brief-ish question set, and and then we'll take a break. So probably in 10 or 15 minutes, we'll take a break. Dave is dry. I am dry. Now, the leader of this town, his name is Haralder. I think in the book it's like Harold or something like that, and I made it a little more Norse because I wanted to, and I can do it. It's my game, like I said. But he is what we will call a named man or a named person, right? He has earned a name through deed, and he is known as Eagle Tamer, primarily because he has, like many of his kin, have the ability to tame birds for some reason. It's metal as hell, but they can do it. And he is known for having tamed one of the great eagles that live in the Morgoroth Mountains to the north of town. And he is the Earl or Jarl. He is the chief of town.
What's his name again?
Haralder.
Haralder.
Good old Geraldo.
Yeah.
That might
Geraldo.
not be how I. The weird part is that might not be how I spell it either. That's just how I say it, even if I look at it. So if I write it a different way, I will say it Haralder, with a D and an R at the end, and no E in between those two letters.
You could just call him the Earl.
Yeah, he as many rulers is he is liked by some and disliked by others. He's generally known as a sort of a nice fella. He's not like a particularly harsh ruler. I probably wrote some stuff I should remember and have in front of me about him, but I don't remember what document it is, and I have like 9 documents up in front of me. But I remember that part at least. But if anybody thinks that their characters have feelings, say one way or the other, for Haralder, or maybe have had some relationship with his family at all in the past, Michael has his hand raised like a good student. So we will start with Michael. Michael.
It keeps me from blurting things out. I'm normally a little bit of a blurter to begin with, and I'm a little bit sleep deprived, so my blurt is way worse, which I apologize if I have stepped on anyone while doing so. But the relation, I see Gunther as having a friendly but tense relationship with the Earl, because the popular man who is a son of the town and has the blessings of Thor and can heal with a touch, again, wonderful to have around. If you're politically minded, he's the kind of person then the wrong circumstances or the wrong emergency becomes a leader, and you don't want that sort of threat to yourself or your kids, especially if you're interested in a dynasty. That's another part of why he lives outside the walls. He is making it very clear to the Earl Haralder that he is not interested in taking that role and does not want to pose a threat to the man's line or his politics. And they get along fine because good fences make good neighbors. But both of them is quite aware, if under the wrong circumstances, if the Earl has to make a hard decision one winter even, and it goes against like the principles of Thor, which respect and challenge, if things were to go wrong, suddenly they're in conflict, and no one knows how that's going to end, and no one wants that sort of uncertainty in their life, especially on a town out on the end of nowhere.
Yes. Where did I write this shit?
I have no idea. I have a document.
I wrote a document that has like a few NPCs in it and talks a little bit about things.
Is
You
that
have it
the
pinned in
Mulgar, the
Discord.
last town one?
It's pinned in Discord.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
sweet. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I have too many windows open.
I
I'm
know,
like,
so do
I know I wrote this. Okay, cool,
The
cool,
last
cool,
town
cool.
one?
Yes, yep, that's the
Okay.
one.
I got it up.
Yeah, oh good. I did write it Haralder. Nice.
Oh, I should probably open that one.
Yeah, his great eagle's name is Oh man, I've figured out how to pronounce that, but it's Fanga with some little squiggly line over the A. It might be the little circle. I don't remember how to pronounce that. Anga. Yeah, Ong. So Fanga. His eagle's name is Fanga. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Does anybody else have any relationship or strong feelings one way or the other about either the Earl, the Jarl, or perhaps his family in town? You don't have to. That's fine, but you may if you want.
Wasn't one of our I was just gonna say, would the Earl have some sort of like mage, like some sort of his own like magic user that like works for him?
Like a town mage?
Yeah, like does he have like his own little, not little, but like in his employ, like a spellcaster of some sort? Just
like
curious.
a Gothi, the Gothi. Am I remembering that wrong?
Well, they would be more like a cleric. They would be more religious affiliated, but I'm just thinking like, or does he just have warriors and that's it?
You know, I'm gonna be honest right now. I hadn't thought of that.
I think it would make sense.
It would make sense. And it could be that it's the unnamed rune guy who was
that I learned from,
that you learned from, you know, and maybe there's some weird tension there because of course he's a old smelly shut in who's less groomed and grizzled, and but he is respected, right? I wrote that down. You know, it could be that there's another character that we don't yet know about, who is this person, and of course it could also be that maybe there isn't one, and maybe there isn't one for a very specific reason that we could invent, because that's the kind of game this is. What do you think?
What was the question?
That's the royal you. That's the royal you. Is there, in the employ of the Jarl, a mage? Like, is there a rune caster, or possibly a seeder, or perhaps a
I assume he
sorcerer
would have
even?
to have some sort of wise man or magic worker or miracle worker that attends him in a world full of magic like this.
Is there maybe a Gothi that fills that role, which is very common in many of the courts across Svilland?
Well, okay. I mean,
I don't know if this would help at all, but the way that I envisioned the Gorm's Rangers is that Gorm has some sort of a sorcerer or a worker of magic in his employ, or that helps him. And I don't know if that lends any additional ideas to the group in terms of what the exact question you're asking, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. And I would assume that Gorm and the Gorm's Rangers work for the Jarl fairly regularly, maybe escorting supplies, or maybe even joining his men for raiding excursions to neighboring areas.
So would you, Dave? Wow, tangent a little bit, but this is a good place to ask this question. Would you consider Gorm's Rangers to be like? Are they a part of to use common parlance, the Jarl's warband, or are they kind of a separate entity, well respected as their given field, but ultimately like separate, but used in that way?
So the way that I kind of saw them was that their group had been there maybe longer, or had been living in adjacent territory when this Jarl took over, and that Gorm or Gorm's father maybe was connected to the Haraldar's father.
Okay.
But not to the level where they work directly for the Jarl, that they are sort of on outside of that hierarchy, but they will help him. There's a mutual respect of the two, and they will help him. There's some sort of an alliance, let's put it that way, between the two that has bonded them, but they also have a sense of autonomy. They will come to help to defend the people of his land.
Okay, so like a little bit separate and kind of equal.
Yeah, we know that doesn't work, but the idea that
That's the drama, baby.
yeah. So they are available, but again, you know,
Okay.
if the Jarl made really bad decisions that put people in harm's way, that would be a problem for them probably too because of their code.
Sure.
So
All right. So does anyone have any feeling either way? Is there a spellcaster in the direct employ of the Jarl?
Well, I was going to say there should be.
Okay.
Simply because I want to have an adversarial relationship with him.
Oh.
It was just like this weird kind of backstory idea I had.
I like it.
So
sounds really cool.
if for no
Well,
other
then
reason,
they would certainly be wooing one of the magic users to be that. I mean,
yeah,
Right.
Why wouldn't someone in power want to control the magic?
So Andy has a rival relationship with
yeah,
the Jarl's
like the court
spell person.
Spellcaster. I don't know if he's also a Rune Walker, or I was thinking maybe he was a sorcerer of some sort. But
I mean, let's put you on the spot. What is it? Is this person?
Oh boy,
Is this person a rune walker or a sorcerer? Where does their power come from? Amanda's got something.
Ooh, what if there is someone that you were studying with that was an equal, that isn't as smelly as the old guy?
And they got the job and you didn't.
No, neither
No.
of you have the job yet. The old smelly guy still has the job, but both of you want it.
Oh, interesting. I was thinking
Oh,
more like
nice.
along the lines of this guy has the job and he kind of looks down his nose at the guy I learned from, and therefore I kind of inherited this distaste for that guy because he's like a bit of an a-hole.
Cut a bit.
So do you
cut a
think
bit.
your
He's like-
do you
he's
think your
more full of
mentor and that
himself
guy
than
are
I
like
am.
peers?
What
Yeah, I
if
kinda
cut the difference of all three? It's like, no, it's the former apprentice of the smelly guy who essentially decided to graduate, looks down at his old mentor. Now maybe he's not, don't know, and then he brought you on. So congratulations, you're living in that shadow on top of the potential of, yeah, he's in the Jarl's employ.
Yeah.
So that guy's
guess-
Kylo Ren, and you're not Kylo Ren. Damn it, I can't remember her name.
Ray?
Ray.
Ray?
You're Ray. So you're Ray, but you're not that secret thing that some people may or may not know about Ray.
Uh-oh, no
Oh, right.
spoilers.
She's a robot.
Yeah, no spoilers in case.
Hey, I haven't even seen that movie, but I know about it,
Oh,
and I'm
geez.
keeping quiet.
We're gonna ignore that spoiler existing.
Okay,
Andy, we all got up in your
I like it. Sorry.
peanut butter there. I apologize.
No, it's
What-
okay.
what do
So
want
you
to
have a rival
dislike?
relationship with the person who is the spell person, who I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, because of your description, is in fact a Rune Walker.
Okay, that's fine. And he could
Okay.
very well be like more. I'm sure he is. I'm going to be level 1. He's
Higher level.
higher level,
Yeah.
but he's very
Cool.
condescending. He's like
Condescending.
just like a jerk, kind of full of himself, more full of
Yeah.
himself than I am.
Confident, some people would say. But
kinda-
in a
he
mean
kinda
way.
like-
Confident in
yeah.
a mean way.
Yeah, he like talks down to people around him,
I don't like them.
orders people around. I don't know.
Cool. Awesome. I love it. This is fantastic. I love everything that we are doing here. I hope you are also like it. I really hope you like it. I hope you come back next week. But hey, let's take a break.
Yes.
10 minute break, get some beverages, a snack, go to the bathroom, do whatever you need to do. Come right back here. We'll continue this wonderful thing we have going on. I promise it'll be great. Okay, bye. Are we starting with all of us or just me?
We're all back.
All right. Hello. Welcome back. I hope that the break was useful for you. It was useful for us. I got some more beer. Skull.
Skull.
You know, or whatever that a person needs to do. I'm not going to judge if you're not drinking. That's your prerogative. Sometimes I just drink tea. But a very specific type of that doesn't matter. Never mind. Let's get back into it. Let's build some context a little bit more. Let's dig a little bit more into your characters.
So with this Heralder, Eagle Tamer,
Yeah.
he's a young man. Does that mean he has a wife and children? Did I birth any of his children?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. So
I hope so.
let's to get into that question, and I like it. Let's back up a little bit about you. So you were a thrall, and you
Yes.
were primarily a midwife
Yes.
as a thrall, and then you were unthralled. You were dethralled. I don't know. You're not a thrall anymore. And
The backstory for thrall, according to the campaign guide, is that they have often been freed, and that you do come with your freed thrall papers.
Yeah.
So I have been released of duty.
And you.
I'm a former thrall.
And you. And because of that situation from where you were thralled, you are now here in Mulgore. So you were not a thrall here in Mulgore.
In Mulgore, nope.
But you, of course, do have a very particular set of skills, different from Liam Neeson's, but a very particular set. That you, I have to imagine, leverage here in Mulgore, based on your question. I would say that he is married, and has some kids, some Utes. Not to be confused, Michael, with the cultural folk who were called Utes, but
No
just
judgment
saying
here,
youths,
wherever they're from.
Youths in a different accent. So I guess my honest question to you is, do you want to have birthed one or more of his children? Because I will leave that bit of story up to you. You can if you like.
I'm going to say I'm going to say that I did, because I think I have a pretty well-renowned reputation. Not everyone approves of my style. Because I am a little bit more. I mean, I mean, there's a lot of. The culture brings a lot of Odin, of Odin's sacrifice and his pain rituals, and I really take that and I twist it a little bit into a very feminist birthing view.
Sure.
And that, Odin sacrificed all of himself in a way because he was threatened by childbirth. And so
interesting.
A lot of that pain and sacrifice was that he just did not tolerate it well.
Okay.
And it's fine if some, and so I know that in a lot of some of Norse mythology is that men were actively involved in the birthing process. And so in my birthing traditions, men very much are. If you want to name the child in 9 days, you should probably be an active participant in this. And that I really don't think well of men that don't tolerate this well. And a lot of men don't.
Right.
It goes, a lot of men do not tolerate this well. They do not naturally see women as the kind of strength that's necessary. I mean, it's a very intimate thing for them, and some don't take it well. And part of me wants to say
it's gross.
Part of me wants to say that, like, his wife did fantastic. The birth was fine. It was actually very easy.
Okay.
And he did not do well. And
But he was there.
But he was there. He did not do well.
A little green in the
with
gills.
it.
Was it a messy birth?
He was. No, I mean,
I don't know.
like from any woman would be like, that was like, yeah, that's blood. I mean, that was kind of clean. Like everything worked out exactly the way it was supposed to.
Okay.
He did not take it well. And so I often have a tendency of shaming men who do not take things well, but he was important enough that I am biting my tongue.
Mm. Oh, okay.
So he knows that he does not like me because I know that he couldn't. That he's not. He wasn't manly enough to. He wasn't manly enough to watch the full outcome of his ejaculation.
So he didn't watch all of it. He was there. That's amazing. He was there for part of it. He wasn't there for all of it.
He was there for all of it, but he was not. I mean, he was physically there.
He did not acquit himself well.
Yeah. Okay. So he doesn't like you because he knows that you consider him a man, but maybe a slightly less, but not the least, but slightly less.
Not the least. Slightly less. I do not think he is as brave as he thinks he is.
Okay. He doesn't like you. Okay. Nice. I fucking love it. I love it. This is how I burn you down. I just want you to know this, though.
I mean,
doesn't
like Chris Perkins says, find out what they love, and then twist that shit. I don't think he said it like that, though.
Freya and I are super close because, like, she too knows that that Odin puts out his own eye because he can't tolerate what women go through on a monthly basis.
Perhaps.
Shut
your mouth, Michael.
I love that.
This is a game, Michael, and it is awesome.
What I was going to say is, I love that because that also works well with what I think of my character. Because if the Earl does something terrible to the midwife, Gunter's going to be like, no, we like her. She's useful.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got two of the healers that are like, one is, BFFs with my stepdaughter, and the other is, well, probably more our weird drunken in on the edge of town than the posh one who thinks we're a bunch of sad storytellers.
Yeah.
No, he is. He by definition is going to be fond of your character. He probably likes all of your characters because he likes most people, but still.
All right, let's continue this energy and move on to our next question that all of you must answer. You don't have to necessarily be connected to everybody, but I will force each of you to be connected to at least one other person. So pick one. And what sort of debt, oath, pact, or relation do you have with that person? What sort of thing have you done perhaps for them that they have not been able to repay? What is the that kind of social gap, that need to act that lies between you? Dave.
Yes, sir.
Which of these
that you just said?
Which of these people does your character have some kind of relationship with, be it formal through debt or oath, or simple friendship?
Well, I think low-hanging fruit would probably be Astrid in terms of the connection that we both have with Haldora, possibly utilizing Vidar's skills as a ranger, as a guide, if you will, to perhaps accompany her and Haldora on excursions into the wilds for collecting herbs and that sort of thing, maybe.
I'm the friend buffer.
Right. You're like the third wheel. It's like, Astrid again? No, he would
It's like,
definitely
if we
not.
can only be alone.
Yeah, he would totally not be like that because that's not his shtick. But he would be very into the being useful. That's kind of what his biggest thing is. He wants to be useful, and so given his, he is a ranger. He's very skilled at survival, tracking, finding things that can be put to use in the wilds. So that would be one connection.
Okay.
I was also wondering if there hadn't been a time when Vidar may have possibly worked for or with Strigg in terms of, and Andy, I don't know if you're into this, but in terms of...
I just realized it's probably pronounced Stieg.
Stieg.
It's Stig, and I think it's Stieg. Just
so Stieg. So perhaps in terms of your search for runes and that sort of thing. I don't know if he is, ranged outside of Mulgore very much, maybe very little, but perhaps on one occasion, the Rangers assigned Vidar to accompany a more veteran ranger along with Stieg and his mentor, perhaps, on an excursion. So they're not like, it wasn't like a one-on-one sort of excursion, but maybe it was one of those situations where Vidar was sort of shadowing or helping a more senior member of the Gorm's Rangers.
Yeah.
So he would know youth from that.
So what interesting thing happened on that outing that kind of bonded the two of you?
Who are you looking at? Me?
It doesn't matter at this
or
point.
One
Either
eye
you or
us?
Andy. Either
There's
you
one
or
eye
Andy.
going.
Each
eye was going in a different direction.
I guess we could have had like an encounter of some sort.
Yeah, maybe with like a wild animal or a pack of wolves, perhaps, or and the Rangers had to step in and sort of not necessarily fight off a pack of wolves or a bear, but maybe do enough to scare them off using some maybe a non-lethal tactic. But it was enough to I don't know if Stieg would be considered like a city slicker type or not. I guess I don't really know what his experience is out of doors and out in the wilds, but it would have shooken the normal non traveled person up a little bit because of that encounter. So that might have been kind of like a wow, you saved our lives perhaps, or and I'm not saying that Vidar was but the Rangers who were there, and so there might be a bit of a not necessarily. Yeah, go ahead.
If I may interject something, what if
do it.
Perhaps that after this encounter, maybe it was like, as these encounters happen, late at night, so it was kind of a sneak attack thing, right, or whatever. But afterwards, maybe he is a little shaken. Maybe this was his first encounter with this kind of ferocity, right? And so maybe maybe you, Vidar, kind of took him a little bit under your wing for like the rest of the, like whatever this journey was, it was like, hey, like kind of like help calm him down and like kind of, maybe show him the ropes to like get his confidence up a little bit. It's just an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to it. I don't know what Andy, what Stieg is like in terms of his outdoorsmanship, but that's entirely cool with me.
I think anybody that lives in this setting has some kind of hardiness to them.
I mean, you have to.
Innate in this environment. It's like Stieg, his family has some wealth, but they're not like right there with the Earl. They're his father gets invited to things, but he doesn't.
Alternative idea that just popped into my head is perhaps your father has a business relationship with the Gorm's Rangers to maybe patrol or defend some of his holdings, perhaps, and that may have been an alternative way that we might have met. rather than the other way. I don't know.
I think either. Yeah, I don't know. Both work, in my opinion.
All right. We'll put a pin in that.
Okay.
Ashley, hello.
Yes.
Ashley, tell us about a relationship of some kind that Astrid has with one of the other party members. Character.
I mean, I feel like I'm connected with 3 of you guys pretty well. You know, like I've got, my good friend who lives and works out of the inn where I also kind of live. And he's like trying to like catch her eye. Which I may or may not have already picked up and just not said anything. I don't know. And then I've got stepmom who is in and out of the inn quite a bit, trying to like look after this, young person who's kind of been on her own for a while.
Yeah, if you want to if you need a mother because you are at that adolescent age, and it might actually make more sense that you wanted a mom first before, what's her name? Before Haldor did. Like, you're close to Haldor, but I mean, I don't know, because you're also, what, 16 or 17?
No, I'm actually at this point, I'm 18, 19.
18, 19?
So I showed up about 2 to 3 years ago. I mean, I can tell you that like I grew up in a temple of Balder in a big city. Okay. So like I'm educated like in religion,
Mm-hmm.
Right? But like I didn't get to finish my training. And like I showed up in town looking a little worse for the wear, like shell-shocked and discombobulated, and like haven't really said a lot about what happened, but like you can obviously tell that I'll tell you, I have a burn scar on my hand that is a symbol of Balder. I'm a little like I'll do it myself, kind of. Like she's not a like, oh please could you help me like be my mom. She's more like
I'm
a little standoffish and a little.
I'm a feminazi, so who is like has problems. Who's like Odin is a wuss who can't deal with menstrual blood. So I can see us maybe like again.
You're like how you deal with pain and like how tough you are, and that is something that my character would want to emulate as like to become stronger, to like you
might
not be a
take
wuss.
You're not the bard, but like you might glom on to some of my breathing and my chanting and my song is like, oh, that's even without magic, that kind of works.
I like it.
A little bit on the meditation side or something.
Yeah. Like, you probably calm me down a little bit and bring me to a more, I don't know, a more
grounded.
I don't know.
She is a little bit optimistic.
Social?
Like she tries to put a spin on everything. Like, look on the brighter side. It's not as bad as it could be. Kind of thing. But
it could be a bullywug.
Could always be a bullywug. No, it really couldn't always be a bullywug. I love it. Do you have any official social relationship, like a debt owed to one another, perhaps an oath, a pact made between the two of you, or a different person? And you don't have to say yes. That's fine.
Don't know that I have any oaths to anyone in town.
Okay. Fantastic. That's okay. Let's go with Stieg.
Steeg.
Yes.
Stieg, we've only talked about you through Dave. Other than Dave, is there a particular sort of person that you may have had in mind that you would have a relationship with as a character, as a person in this livable, breathing world?
Well, in terms of like some of my character abilities, I am planning. Well, I'm obviously not going to be much of a melee fighter, but I am going to have some sort of training in that regard. So I
Okay.
was thinking maybe perhaps he could have gone to Gunder to get some kind of proficiency with like a spear, sorry, or you know, another weapon or two.
Gundar would have just been enthused. Whatever you want, my friend. What do you wish to learn to fight with? I don't know everything, but you know, I know
So
more than the
yeah,
pointy and goes in the other man.
in this book they give wizards or rune walkers get all simple weapons. Like I don't have
Yeah.
martial weapons,
Which
but
is spear. You get proficiency in spear, baby,
yeah.
Hell
So
yeah!
because
I was
this book
thinking of
knows what's up.
yeah, and you know, no Viking man was without a spear, from what I'm told. So
It's true. It's true.
um, so yeah, he would have obviously wanted to train at some point. So maybe that would be like a connection that we share. I was
Okay.
thinking.
Absolutely. And Gundar, you would find, has a respect for the runes that runs a little even deeper than you would expect for like a priest or, you know, a holy man. Like
Right.
he obviously doesn't know them, but he seems to know wisdom associated. And every time you said something, he'd be like,
Nice.
yes. Like he's absorbing it.
Yeah. And I'm pretty much
Someone that
yeah,
I
sorry,
could
go
have
ahead.
sorry, is there someone that I could have learned like axe or like fighting from, like in town?
Yep.
Or
Plenty. Yes. Let's see. I do not. I mean, most people would know. So I guess the question is because of the mechanical nature of Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, we have the hand axe proficiency, which is a simple weapon, or battle axe proficiency, or maybe more importantly, the Svillander axe, which is a new weapon for all of those of you out there. Unique to this book, it's just a really big axe, which is also martial weapon proficiency, and
It's got its own mechanic, which is pretty
it
cool.
does. Yeah, it does. It rips everything down.
Yeah.
It's a big boy. So I guess my question to you would be: Are you specifically referring to a specific type of axe? Because that may or may not be a different person.
right. I can't use martial weapons, so
Okay.
it has to be like a simple
Okay.
like weapon. But I was thinking of, and I don't know if this is like, you know, not within the game mechanic, but I was thinking of like a hooked axe, you know, because like the Vikings used to do like a lot of hooking and tripping and stuff with axes. So I didn't know if that was like part of the game mechanics or not, or you know, real life entering into like D&D doesn't always happen.
I will tell you this, Ashley, because you are new, and I mean, realistically, I would tell anybody this because I am way too nerdy about what fifth edition is. There are a number of ways that we can deal with mechanically that the game has written into it that we can deal with. Say, if you want to become specifically proficient with doing those kinds of movements, and I'm all into that. Like that's totally cool. We can make that happen. It's a little bit of a thing, but it is something that we can do, and it is something that we can. And I'm specifically all for, say, setting up ahead of time. So it could be that you have somebody in town that you know or work with who is training you in martial weapons, whether or not you currently have, say, proficiency in martial weapons. You can still technically use martial weapons if you want. You just don't use them as effectively, but which we can set up to later gain proficiency in said martial weapons, and also creates cool story. So if that's the sort of thing you want to do, I am here for it. I will make that shit happen. But if you want something a little more within the realm of what you currently have, we can do that too. That's no problem.
There is
Okay.
actually a feat that does that too. That they
Which is
have.
specifically what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I didn't want to bog things
Okay.
down too much by getting into the weeds of what that actually means today, right now.
Yeah,
But
it's also kind of like disappointing though, because like if we're only first level, like we might have 1 feat. You know, like do you want to spend your 1 feat and like learn how to do melee, you know, weapons or whatever, you know, martial
can be
weapons?
considered useful. I will tell you all this. Certain things at low level will happen very fast, such as becoming less low level. So the speed with which, say, some of us are accustomed to gaining new abilities in other games, some of this is going to happen pretty fast, and we will probably narratively cover a lot of ground um, uh, in time dilation ways to cover a lot of that kind of stuff. So
Sorry,
if
I have another question. Like, so are you
yes.
doing like experience points like per person? Or are you doing like I'm just gonna tell you guys when you've leveled up once so you all stay together?
I'm just going to tell you guys, when you level up once, 99% of that reason is because I hate fucking math. And that's a lot of math to
Me
try to figure
too.
out how, like, it's much easier for me to tell a story to where I can generalize your level and not have to worry about, well, actually, they would be blah, blah, blah because of experience points for this monster and that monster. And that's, some people like to play that way. And someday I do want to get back into that for some kind of game. But this is, because of my ideas for this game, this is not going to be that game. So it'll be like, oh, hey, you're level 2 or you're level 3 or whatever. So there are feats similar to 3rd edition, which you are, of course, familiar with. They don't happen as frequently in 5th edition. They're which I kind of like. They're a little more, in some ways, they're a little more meaningful. Some people, of course, on the internet tell you that some feats are bullshit and some feats don't do anything and some feats are overpowered. And some of that may or may not be true because of the tables are all different. And, you know, it's a thing that I don't need to get into the weeds talking about. But there are some feats that allow you to gain weapon proficiencies in melee and martial weapons and give you interesting abilities to do things with those martial weapons on top of it. So we can absolutely make that happen and have a character that you know that is training you. It could be one of the martial weapon wielding people in the party. It could be an NPC. However you want to do it.
I'm open.
All right.
But yes, my character definitely wants to train.
I love it. I'm going to write that down. Wants to train to hook people with axes. My
Yeah, would
notes are
it be?
very specific.
Very important
And I'm
goals.
not sure if it'd be a trip or a grapple.
We
But
can do all
I'm
those
also
things.
not very strong, so I'm like, I don't necessarily know that I want to throw a whole feat at it.
There's mechanics. Well,
Okay.
we'll talk about it offline. Yeah.
Sure,
I
sure.
Those
also
guys, they
have
work under cars.
I also have certain notes like men must be a part of birth or they are weak. My notes are very specific. I take good notes when I take notes.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody else, have I not asked somebody about an inter-party connection?
I don't know.
Amanda,
You
did I
checked your
not
notes
ask
yet?
you? Did I not? No, fuck off. Did I not ask you, Michael?
I don't think you've asked me or Amanda technically.
I know specifically it got a little amalgamous because there was like a group
3
of
of
you
us
that
know
all
each
knew
other.
each other. Yeah. So I have that written down. Would either of the two of you like to have relation with one of the other party members, other than that group that you already have?
Yes, actually.
Okay, what do you got? What do you got?
Well, I imagine that among the things Gundar does as well is, a party of people are going out into the, I know that Mulgore is, it's the town at the edge of, the wilds, and sometimes outsiders come through to go into the wilds. So he will, for whatever recompense they offer, he will, put on his hauberk and grab his shield and spear and will go with them and kind of help guide them. And I like the idea that while he has relationships, with everyone else here, he owes an actual life debt to Vither, because one of those, in fact, at one point went horribly wrong. And Gundar is not a woodsman. Like he's as good as everyone else would be at this time, but that doesn't mean he's great. And injured and wounded, he gets kind of back into the area, and Vither found him and kept him from being dead and got him back to town. And straight up, Gundar straight said, "I owe you my life, my friend. That if I may ever repay it, you have but to say the word."
Yes. As long as one of you has a fucking debt, we're gold.
If you're okay with that, Dave. If you're not, that's fine too.
Yeah, no,
awesome.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. It would have been a very sort of a fortuitous chance encounter of Vitter happening across the situation, whatever this can be. We can hash that out, offline or whatever. But and having the opportunity to like, oh my gosh, I can actually do something on, I'm on my own. I can help this person. It would make him feel very valuable. And coming from, an orphan status where he was taken from his people, and he is definitely trying to prove his value. And so that would be a good opportunity for him.
And as far as Gundar is concerned, Vither is one of the best woods people to be had. And, if it comes up, he will say, of course, the man's good at what he does. He's amazing. So, however good or not your character is, Gundar has a very high opinion of him.
Great. So he's #1 fan.
Yeah. Well, and he's also very young. As I mentioned, he's sort of in that coming of age, spot in his life where he's sort of on the edge of becoming, a man, essentially. So that would be pretty important to him.
I feel like this is a weird
age, like around the same age, which makes sense with the friend that is also the same age.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm realizing that Gundar kind of gives off the older brother vibes. Like, he always checks on Astrid now and then, goes, "How are you doing? Is anyone giving you trouble?" And he's like very supportive of Vitter coming into the community, as an adult. He just thinks Pi is just great. Like every time she says something sassy, he's like, and he definitely thinks Stig has secrets of the universe that are very important. And he's like, he's going to be very differential to your character if you say something about like the runes or something going on. He's going to be like, yes.
It is true.
Awesome.
I like
Amanda,
Yeah.
Did you have anything different that you wanted to pop onto somebody?
The only thing is I think I'm a little bit aware that Haldora has a very adorable suitor. And I appreciate his awkwardness. I think he is a very respectful.
Nice boy.
I think he's a really nice boy. I really like him. As much as I can like an adolescent man who I have, I know he's.
I feel you there.
I've seen him handle animals in a kill. So while he hasn't done, he hasn't been through the experience that I usually expect, I have a good sense that I will like him. I want to. I mean, I know you said that there's a lot of things where identity and clan are really important in this, and being a former thrall, being, also I'm a little leery of, I always have a support for thralls. In that backstory, we have a similar, I don't know a lot about him because he is young, he is a suitor. There is a risk. I have these two beautiful, these two special young women in my life. But that I don't have a traditional kinship. Like I have a clear part of kin, but we are not in any sense traditional. Maybe a
Right.
clan of rejects somehow. When a clan comes together, I will pull people in. So some of y'all that don't have clan, like that is part of what the inn does in a strange sort of way. When you need clan and don't have one, we allow kind of a particular type of riffraff, and that is part of also, I think, our strange building. And so that is something that's very important for. And so here's this young man who doesn't have a traditional family. It's
Never knew
how,
his mother
how that would
really.
doesn't what
He never knew his mother, because he
doesn't,
was taken at an early age. So in that sense, he'd be, there'd be some sort of a allure of sort of a relationship, but I think he would also be a little intimidated
oh,
by,
you're
right?
probably
Because he has no
terrified of
idea.
me. You
He
have
has no
no
idea
idea
like
because
how he
you've
doesn't know how
been
to
raised by
interact.
men in a very
Right.
particular context.
Absolutely.
You've got these two young women that you don't even. I might be invisible to you, or if I'm not, I am a monster.
No, he knows you're there. He knows you're there for sure.
Like, I am
He
the
knows that you
scariest
exist.
reason.
Yeah.
I am the only other
Yeah.
person you are terrified of, besides
The
your
lady who
master
shouts all the
somewhere,
time.
is
Yeah.
me. What?
It's
Yeah,
that lady who
like
shouts all the time.
exactly.
Great.
Like you might be scared of me, but like scared in a
She's gonna be
in
your
a
mother-in-law.
That's right.
In a
That's
respectful way. The fear
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fear manifests
respectful way,
itself
and
as respect.
I want.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore you. Like I think you're sweet, and I want I want to bring you in, but only when you're ready, and that means that you actually have to do what you have to do to that next generation that I can't. I mean, I want to be everyone's mother, but I can't be, and I'm a little hostile in some ways, and others and not. And I bring a lot of life into this world, and I'm looking for spring. And
I
you
love
give me
it.
that hope of spring,
I love
but
it.
you also worship winter, so
It's a little
Yeah,
weird, little weird.
it is.
no
All right, so
multi-generational relationships.
we're running a little bit shorter on time, and that's okay. But like I said, we're going to skip around. So one of the big things, viewer, that I really also want to do. There's a whole bunch of stuff I want to do with this game, and one of the things I want to do with this game is really be considerate and intentional with how our characters and players deal with the act of violence against fellow human beings. Because very commonly in many of our D&D games, it's like, yep, I'm the fucking farm boy, first level character, and I'm gonna butcher all these jerks, and it's no big deal. And that's great for a Bruce Willis action movie, which I would go see a lot. Let's be honest. But like there are of course problematic connotations about that, and I really want death and violence to mean something, and the repercussions of that sort of thing to mean something to the people in the community that they exist in. I'm also really going to do my best to promote avenues of nonviolence. It's probably going to be a little heavy-handed at times, where I'm going to say things like, "Are you sure you want to draw your sword and stab that guy?" And I'm going to probably say it like that. I want to be able to promote the ability to fisticuffs. I want to be able to promote the ability to not necessarily kill somebody when you reach 0 hit points, because you can do that in the rules of D&D. You can say, I knock him to 0 hit points. He's unconscious. I'm not going to kill him. He's unconscious. So I want to promote that. So with that in mind, how do each of you? How comfortable are you with and around violence and killing other people? Have you done it? Is it something you're unsure about? Is it something you've had to do? Is it something you've seen done? And please feel free to say any of those answers in between. So
one of the things about Gundar's backstory is he is unfortunately comfortable with killing. It's something he's done before. That reminds me, really quick, Ashley, just to ask out loud for your backstory. The city your character came from was not the Broken Throne, right?
oh boy.
You know, honestly, Chad is not like solidified which city with
It's
me.
beautiful because the secret that I have in my backstory that the characters can know is he was a bandit and a criminal for years as a kid because it went to shit when his uncle took him to the Broken Throne, which is one of the big cities. So he has done really bad things and went through a religious reformatory experience, which is why he is who he is. So is he comfortable with violence? Yes. Does he like it now? No. And he very much is going to be interested in keeping the violence between humans to the socially acceptable levels and mores. But he clearly, the minute it's not human or something, or if it's a person threatening the community, gloves come off, and he will try to end it very quickly and efficiently.
My character's chaotic good. So I can and will stab you for the greater good. How about that?
It's chaotic good, not chaotic nice.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think this setting is such that most everybody by a young age is going to probably witness violence. And
I do want to make a distinction between violence that does not end in death and violence that does end in death.
Right.
Yeah. But you are correct.
I would imagine there's not a lot of open killing happening in the town, but you probably hear about it a lot. Blood feuds and whatnot exist in this society. That's kind of how they limit the amount of killing that happens. But I would say that Stieg hasn't been in battle.
Okay.
He's training. He's like actively training himself to be kind of go out and adventure. Like,
and when you say battle, do you mean any kind of combat, or do you mean like a battle?
I mean like a full battle, like
being in
shield wall, bunch of people all hacking at each other.
An actual battle. Okay.
Yeah.
I will write that specifically in my notes.
But
have you been in a fight?
But he's been in multiple confrontations. I would think that these kids probably grow up in a pretty rough and tumble sort of manner in that.
Oh, yeah.
Their fights break out. They don't often escalate to deadly encounters, but they have before. So he's definitely been in fights. He's training himself to be useful in a fight, but he hasn't actually been in like a full combat kind of situation, I guess you could say.
Okay, that leaves two of you. Dave or Amanda, what is your character's relationship with violence and the death of other people?
Well, while I am a very skilled midwife, sometimes, birth is still one of the most dangerous things a woman can experience. And sometimes there are sacrifices for to save either life. So sometimes there is one has to be sacrificed for the other to survive, and sometimes you lose both of them. And sometimes so I mean, in a certain way, there's a certain amount of death that I am comfortable with. There's been a lot of war that has happened near and around kind of my backstory. So death of battle, wars happen. I have I think there's a lot of innocent people that die in war, and there's a lot of people that do not get to the battlefield that probably have a lot of blood on their hands and don't necessarily have a lot, like if I could make them suffer the way the women that they have, make them suffer like a child, like a woman going through labor, I might be okay with that. There's some vengeance and some anger issues that she does have. But in general, I keep it together.
Nice. I like it. Dave, tell us.
Vidar has been raised by men who have killed, who have raided, who have pillaged and plundered. He is, I don't know what the exact age is. I haven't figured that out, but he is of the age where he has not yet wet his blade. He has not killed a man or a woman or, human. He's certainly
that went dark real fast.
He certainly has an appreciation for the cycle of life and death. He has taken many animals. He is a hunter, and he respects and reveres that sacrifice that those creatures make for the betterment of the clan.
Okay.
But he has not killed yet, and so if and when that time comes, this is Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm sure things will happen that will put us in situations where that will happen. I anticipate that will be sort of a thing for him as a adolescent.
Nice.
Being sort of put in that position and having to make those choices. So I fully intend to, role play that aspect. So yeah, he's pretty inexperienced in terms of the raiding parties. He has not been taken with them. He has always been told to stay behind and protect the family when the men have gone out on the raids.
Awesome. I love it. This is great. This is everything a DM could want. Cool, great story that we're gonna milk for every ounce of drama. It's gonna be amazing. So I think we are going to call it a wrap in this section of our session 0 about really kind of going into the stories of your characters. What we've done is great. There is, of course, probably a lot more. Ultimately, we do have a little bit more of character creation, which because of things we're going to just do offline, which I will, of course, allow you all to do on your own. I know since Ashley is new to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, you will probably desire some assistance, which I myself will freely give as long as it's not tomorrow, because I have a cocktail class to do tomorrow. But anytime this weekend or next week, or if you ask any of the rest of us, I'm sure we would love to assist you with anything or any questions that you have. But what I do want to do is another important thing, which is not in this document. I better hit save. Which is a little bit of talk about us as players, expectations, things that may or may not be issues for us. What the fuck is the word for that shit? I don't remember.
Triggers.
Yeah. So of course I do also have a document that I sent all to you as viewers. I have a document that I sent to all of my players that I will also share somehow. I'll probably post it on Twitter or something because people are on Twitter, and I don't know. It's the only way I have to do it right now. I don't want to email everybody who is interested in this document. That would be weird. But I think it's important to talk about a little bit about sort of the mechanics of us playing a game together and telling a story. If that's okay with you guys, my players and girls, my folks.
Please, yes, we should.
Okay. I'm I'm going to skip the first question, which is what is your comfort level with 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons? That doesn't matter in this context. What Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition really they talk about a hierarchy of play, or not really a hierarchy of play, but that's what I call it. But they talk about pillars of play, that being combat, exploration, and role play. How comfortable are each of you, and you can throw out answers as you will, with these pillars? Is there perhaps a pillar that you are maybe most comfortable with, or maybe prefer over the others, or maybe aren't as comfortable but want to explore more of, as it were?
I really enjoy I enjoy all 3 pillars. The exploration is fun because you run into these random hooks that can take you in very weird and interesting directions. Combat is fun because that's part of the game. That's, the game part where you're adjudicating the results with dice, which is great. But for me, the role playing is I really enjoy the engagement between characters. So, depending on people's comfort levels, I will try as best I can. I'm certainly not an expert, but I will try to engage, the other 4 players as much as possible in game to talk about, as we get to know each other as a group, your backgrounds and connections and, knowledge and things like that. 'Cause I really enjoy the lore of a place, of a setting.
Awesome.
I am all about the role playing. That's what brings me to any tabletop game. If there was a hierarchy of them, it'd be role playing, exploration, combat. Which, for those of you who play with me beyond Saltmarsh, may be a little confused by that, because you know how tactical I am, and you know how I build my characters. That's because I want combat over quickly so I can get back to the stuff I like,
Right.
which is the role playing and the exploration. So that's just where I tend to come in. As you can tell, I've already been like, I have character interactions to do. It's going to be awesome.
Nice. Who else? What else? What do you got? Who likes what?
I like the character stuff too. I feel like my 24 years at the Renaissance Festival have prepared me for this.
Yes, you're very qualified.
Yeah.
And exploration, and then combat at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I definitely like the combat.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just the fun part for me. That's not true. I mean, I like all aspects. I like all 3 of them, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely not as good at the role play and like the exploring of characters and stuff like that. It's just like the other stuff is kind of more rule based, and the role play is kind of like you kind of come up with it.
Ethereal.
No, I'm gonna butt in here because
Yeah.
I am the DM in a game that you play in, and I'm gonna tell you that that may be your opinion and the way you feel, but I personally think that you do a great job in the role play side of things, and I think the character that you've created with Runar has been really fun to sort of watch him.
We respect Captain Deg, not because of the rules associated, but because you've made a character that everyone else at the table is like, he's a good guy, and we back him, and we'll follow him. Yes,
right.
That's true. Yeah. You were a champion fighter for a few times for a while, and obviously the rules do not back up the champion.
No. He kind of came up, and that was I don't know what to say about Runar, but
cool.
I enjoy all 3 aspects. I love having a combat that we can jump into and like start rolling dice, but I really like all parts of it. So
okay. Amanda, how do you feel? What do you like?
Well, it's fun it's going to be interesting being on the player side of things. As a DM, combat can sometimes overwhelm me. But as a player, that may actually be kind of fun. I'm only dealing with 1 character sheet at a time. So I'm kind of looking forward to that with a good group that can make a combat encounter move. as I said, I've DM'd more than I've played, and I'm only been playing now for a little over a year and a half, not quite 2 years.
Yeah.
And started DMing within 5.5 months of starting to play.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I will let you guys all know that I really want to get into some dope role-playing drama. Like Andy, I know you've probably read the Icelandic sagas and know all about
not all of them.
the crazy family drama. Like I want to fucking get into that kind of vibe. But as at least 3 of you know, or at least 2 of you know, my ultimate expression in life is through action and combat. Not that I am a fighter specifically, but I love to express story through combat, and so we're gonna have a lot of it. But I want to do a lot of the other stuff, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I like one thing that Amanda said real quick about the pace of the combat and like the turns, and like I think we have a good group here who understands how to do that in a efficiently. Ashley, I know you have a little bit of a learning curve with 5e, but we're here to help you for sure. But
yeah,
I think that's
might
huge.
like quote some rules, and you'll probably be like, "No, we don't do that anymore."
I think the turn.
I'll be honest.
Making the turns.
I've been playing
happen,
5th edition for 4 years, and I have the same problem.
Okay.
And having the turns move quickly I think is helpful. Combat's great, but it can get bogged down sometimes with turns, and so being prepared for your action, I think, is pretty key. As best you can.
I do think. I was going to say though, the one thing that I, kind of going back to where my take is being the DM and listening to everyone build characters is, as you've heard, I have a lot of character and backstory, and I have a tendency of just in my regular life, and the reason why this game works for me is I'm very good at character and backstory and world building. I'm awful at verbs, which is why I'm not a novelist. I never have actions. And so D&D is this wonderful book and this tool set that all of a sudden gives me verbs and gives other people verbs, and now anything has like a plot just comes because dice make it happen. And that is my favorite thing. So I love that fact that like all of a sudden verbs can happen.
I love that.
And verbs will happen.
Verbs can happen.
Such a good.
Be a lot of verbs.
A lot of verbs.
Also, Ashley, don't worry about knowing old rules. I've got more editions than I'm comfortable talking about stuck in my head occasionally. So every now and then I'll be like, wait, what's that? Is Thaco? Why am I thinking about Thaco? Ignore me, continue.
Let's get to a couple more questions really quick. We've already hinted at the idea that some people have may or may not have budding romances perhaps amongst their characters. I want to be open and honest about such things and I do not want to force things upon people who are not willing or able to or ready to do so. How comfortable, and I'm not saying that this is going to turn into a romance game because I'm not necessarily into that, but how comfortable are you with some amount of romance, whether it's NPC to NPC would just be me versus myself. That's weird.
Just watching chat, like romance and stuff.
That would happen on a McElroy show, and this is not a McElroy show.
That's a strange form of masturbation, is what that is.
PC to NPC, or should it happen NPC or PC to PC? Because I don't like if people aren't comfortable with PC to PC thing, that could get really weird. And PC to NPC could also get weird. And I don't want to, like, if people are comfortable with it, we can let it flow. If people are not comfortable with it, I'll fucking kibosh that shit.
Who's gonna say something?
Well,
I just wanna-
you know,
I just wanna
obviously,
get
I
the temperature.
brought it up in my backstory with Heldora for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not something that I necessarily am super fired up about role playing, you know.
Okay.
But I think it creates a connection
Mhm.
that can be used for storytelling. Whether or not, and I'm not uncomfortable if
Yeah.
it gets to a point where I am having those conversations with Heldora. But I don't think it's not something that I'm specifically looking for. But if it
Okay,
happens, I'm
sure.
cool with it. And I don't know. Yeah, that's about all I have to say there. It's not really
Okay.
not a problem. for me.
I'm perfectly comfortable with it. I'm not expecting it in any way, in any version of it. But I am a romantic at heart, so
Mhm.
if things happen, I'm like, I love watching me a romance subplot, but I like it as a subplot, not as a main
Yeah.
plot. If you introduce a
Right.
love interest to a story just to have a love interest, you're a bad writer.
Yeah,
That's-
I've never
I mean, that's
enjoyed
really
like
true.
I've never enjoyed those movies where they just have the love interest because they feel like they need one. And I also have never enjoyed, and not to talk bad about bards because we have a bard in the group, but I've always been like this bard stereotype where they're trying to bed every individual they meet along the way is so boring. It's just not even fun. It's like stupid. So that kind of stuff I'm totally not into. If it comes out as like a sort of an innocent relationship that's a subtext, a subplot that's what I'm talking more about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, I don't want to be like, we're not going to be role playing some hardcore shit. Like, that's fucking weird.
No.
That's not the kind of show. Like, I'm going to swear a lot and we're going to murder some people, but that is not the kind of show that we're having right here. But
yeah.
Does anybody else have anything to say that is different from that?
I mean, I'm playing a mid. I don't have to get into any more gory.
Or you kind of cut out there.
I'm playing a midwife. I hope I'm not having to get into any gory specific tales more than I already have in this session for any of that.
Fair enough.
I do request at least one childbirth role play moment with full description.
Full description.
Yeah. So
I've been to childbirth because I'll do it.
I'm into it. I'm into it.
I will have to do a lot more research, but yes, we can do it.
All right.
I can lend you a
Ashley,
textbook.
are you on the same page? Andy, you're on the same page with these kinds of things?
Just like kind of like what Dave said. Like, I'm not really looking for that, I guess.
Yeah.
But I can see the appeal of it entertainment wise on a Dungeons and Dragons show. But it's not generally my intention. Like going into a game. I guess.
I mean, certainly my character is not looking to get married, you know. But I mean, as long as it forwards the plot, I'm cool with it.
Sure. And I'm not saying that any of that kind of thing is going to happen. I just I feel like it's an important thing to bring up for those of you viewing in a session 0. And I wanted to bring it up because we do have players who are both male and female, which can be weird, and I want to be able to weird out somebody who is weird in the group right now. If you're weird in a way that we are not all weird together normally.
So
you know what
a good
I mean?
Weird and a bad weird.
There is. Yeah.
Don't be the other weird.
Don't be the bad weird. We're at is there anything else I really wanted to there is one more thing that I think is a very important thing to talk about before we leave. Is everybody okay with going like a couple of minutes over?
Yeah,
10 o'clock time? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my social schedule is like so big and I have so many things going on right now.
We appreciate your suffering for us.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out. We appreciate it. The rest of us have nothing going on.
Yeah. I think, what did I say to you, Chad, when you were like, hey, you want to join this thing? I think I said, hell yeah, I'm bored AF.
Yep. That is specifically exactly what you said.
Not anymore.
If anybody doubts me, I will share I won't share the text message, but that's what it was. So are there any topics, themes, situations for you as individuals that you are willing to talk about in this format right here, that are either a hard no or what we could call a borderline thing, where we're okay with we can say that this thing happened, but we're not going to role play this thing happening.
Yeah, right.
And then think about it as well. If there's anything that you don't want to share with other people, and if you want to share it with me so that I know not to fucking cross some line that you have, because I don't want to do that. And if you don't want to tell other people, and if you're comfortable telling me, please do so offline, and we can talk about that. But if there's anything that you are comfortable sharing in this format right here, I guess ultimately with the fucking internet, I guess that's maybe a little weird. But and if not, and if you don't want to share it with the internet, but you want to share it to the group, we can function in that too. But
I'll share with the internet. I'm ready to share.
Yeah, man. What do you got?
I would say, well, what you said at the beginning of the stream, I think is important, is just, the sort of idea of the Norse symbolism being co-opted by Nazis and racist entities out there. I like the fact that you mentioned that we're not going to focus as much on the sort of the racial tension between races and more about cultural tension and dramatic tension. That's more interesting. Mm-hmm. I've been watching a lot of Viking sort of inspired shows lately to kind of get sort of in the mood and sort of ramped up for this. And there certainly is an element of in the pillaging specifically that makes me uncomfortable with the the ideas of sort of rape and that sort of thing. I'm not cool with that at all. In terms of it could be mentioned maybe, but definitely, and I know you, Chad, you would never do this anyways, but just to get it out there is I don't want that to become something that gets, described in detail and becomes a role play element, you walk in on a group with blah, 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 blah. I'm not interested in that part of the pillaging. So that's pretty much for me. That's the only hard no.
Okay.
Same. Yeah, okay. If you want to say somebody had been raped or something, but in the past, but I certainly hard no to have it in combat or have to role play something I'm just it's such a downer, man.
Doing a rape is out.
Yeah.
Having done a rape maybe, but doing a rape
in terms of a crime.
Yeah.
But we don't need details or to see on screen a number of things. That sexual assault of any kind definitely near the top. Any kinds of especially graphic child abuse or anything to children. Obviously a hard no to everyone. I'm assuming.
There will be no children in this game whatsoever.
Good, let's get rid of them.
We don't need them anyway.
That's right. That's right.
The pendulum swung too far on that one. But okay.
No children violence.
The thing I would also want to make sure everyone as a group is okay with, to derail it for 10 seconds, is everyone uncomfortable with if someone else says, I need to stop here, everyone else going, okay, we're dropping it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Totally. I say that because, hey, I'm going to be the first to say sometimes I get weird, emotional, and locked up over things that just happen in the game. Happened to me at the end of the session before last of Beyond Saltmarsh because we lost somebody and my brain just went. So there's
going to be some awkward sessions back to back.
So so even if you don't say anything now, if we come to it and it's something you're like, I need us to stop this now. I want to make sure we've said that's okay and are holding each other accountable for it, because that's just as important as having talked about beforehand personally. And that's my side note.
So I'd like to clarify. So does that mean that we stop the game at that point, or are you saying we just stop that narrative and Chad shifts the narrative?
Yeah, so if somebody, I think if somebody says, I'm out of this, we need to stop this. sometimes I will be able to pivot immediately and, hard visual cut, slash cut, fade to black, new scene.
Right.
Sometimes it might be that I need to take like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and we might take
Sure.
a short break so I can recalibrate. And that's fine. If that's a sort of thing that happens, I want to be absolutely transparent that I want to be able to do that for
Okay,
y'all.
cool. I just wanted to clarify what that
yeah.
exactly meant, so that when it if it does happen, which hopefully doesn't, we all know exactly sort of what the next step is.
Yeah.
Especially the man who's in charge of making the cuts in the stream.
And don't worry about
fade the black, quick.
And you don't
like
have
something
to
that people can say that's like clearly the like stop word, as
like
opposed to like I'm really into my character, like at the Renaissance Festival we used to say like if you ever hear somebody tell you I'm not having fun anymore, like you're like, oh, that they're clearly they wouldn't say that in a character kind of way, so that they're
no, that works.
Yeah,
works
for me.
Let's go with it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go with that. I like it.
Awesome. I guess one more maybe quasi important thing. Obviously, Svilland, very dangerous place. Violence is frankly, it's gonna feature heavily. I enjoy the complications and drama around violence, as you could tell by my movie collection at home. And the acting that I've done has all been based around violence. How comfortable are you all with, at least at a certain level, descriptions of violence? I know some people have issue with certain types of violence, like violence against eyeballs is like a hard no for some kind of people, and that's okay. It is frankly hard to watch. So I don't want to if there's something about some kind of violent scene that we get into and like we're describing, like if you're not about cutting feet and I accidentally cut somebody's feet, I apologize, but I want to know right now if I'm in the wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like for example, there's a player in one of our other games who has a rapier who will oftentimes use that rapier in very interesting and graphic and descriptive ways. For example,
he gets
unusually creative,
really unusually
very creative. And you know who we're talking about, Kirk Ski Bob. I see you lurking.
We
buddy.
love you.
We do love you. We love everything about that game, and that's appropriate for that game. But maybe it wouldn't be here, so I don't know. But it's some. Yeah. Go ahead.
To start rolling the ball. I'm just very much, if I'm going to be about violence, it's going to be kind of realistic, and I'm not going to be a gory detail. For example, I'm not Kirksky. I'm not going to be like, and I'm going to put it through his eyeball. I'm very much I'm going to swing. I'm aiming for this. What happens, happens. Please do not spend 3 paragraphs describing exactly how he's disemboweled. I don't need that much. I just need to know what happened, and if cool stuff happened, that's fine. But I don't need an excess of it.
And if we were to say that there was a spectrum of violence somewhere between Charlie Chaplin and Robert Rodriguez, I'm in Jackie Chan. Maybe later period Jet Li or Donnie Yen. So I like the violence, but I don't need he puts his hand through his head and then it drifts. And there's brains and eyeballs. I mean, sometimes there might be a little bit of that, but that's not don't expect every day to be a Robert Rodriguez movie.
I'm on the Robert Rodriguez.
I think we need to describe the gore in detail.
Yeah, we don't need to. Yeah, and we don't always need to either, because in a lot of honesty, that bogs down a lot of combat. There will be times when I might say something, to quote Matt Mercer, "How do you want to do this?"
Yeah,
unquote. And and I'll give you free reign to describe whatever kind of fucking gory detail you want to describe, or less gory detail, as you please. And there might be moments where, for dramatic effect, I might be like, "Oh yeah," and then she cut him in twain, and he fell one way and also the other way, and his ropes spilled out upon the ground, and verily there was a fountain of blood.
That was beautiful.
That's one way to
Thank
say
you.
it. So you can say it that way.
Poetry.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I like that.
Awesome.
Torture.
Torture.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
like, I'm
you're not into torture.
No, like pulling out fingernails or pulling out teeth or just maiming someone intentionally.
All
Without
that
there
Game
being,
of Thrones stuff.
like
So are you saying torture itself is a hard no, or the description of torture is a hard no?
like I'm okay with like the concept of there like being a dungeon and there are implements that that exist there and bad things happen in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm maybe even okay with with rescuing a prisoner that is missing two fingers.
Mm-hmm.
But has somehow been
But we don't need to see it on
I
screen.
don't need to know any of what happened.
Right.
Off screen
kind
if
of-
it occurs.
Fantastic.
I
I don't want to
think-
describe that, so I think we're on the same page.
Right. Yeah.
One of my favorite books is Haruki Murakami's The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. And the goriest scene I've ever read is in that book. Turns out it's only 3 sentences. I always thought it was like a whole chapter, 3 or 4 pages. It's 3 sentences.
Feels long. It
Yeah.
feels
It feels
long.
like it's all of 3 sentences.
Yeah.
I never need to read those 3 sentences again. Even though I've read the book 12 times, I've read those 3 sentences 4 times. It took me
Fair
4
enough.
tries to figure out it was 3 sentences, and now I know where they are.
Awesome. So in again, for those viewing, I have a lot more player questions, but I feel like I know the answers, or if anybody of my players has a thing to say about them, they will say them to me. Does anybody have anything to say, anything they want to bring up specifically about our playing, about the game, that is not like a long thing, before we call it a night? Any questions? Any concerns? Any topics?
I had one quick question about the
Yeah.
economics of this
Oh.
particular location.
Money.
Is it a money? Is there a money-based economy? Is it more of a barter sort of economy? Is it both? What's the role of coin?
Sure. So a little column A, a little column B.
Okay.
I was just gonna say my character in particular has money requirements
Yeah.
at a certain point.
Yeah.
So I was curious about how much that would play into things, because like in Curse of Strahd, for example, like there's no commerce. Like everything's dark and horrible. You know what I mean?
Especially in my Curse of Strahd.
Yeah. In Dave's Curse of Strahd. There might be a little bit, but I've been playing with them for a while, and I haven't made any money or bought anything in like over 6 months of play or something. So I was a little curious about that, because I have this ability that comes up and where you need to spend money to do something character-wise.
To be fair, you haven't traveled to a town in Curse of Strahd, but we won't get into that yet.
Yeah.
So I'll answer this way. So there is coin. Coin has value, and they don't necessarily talk about this in the Svilland book, but it's, to me anyway, and perhaps to other people, it is evidenced by the way that they talk about the things that they do talk about, that it is in large part, in many ways, in some context, a very kind of almost traditional kind of fantasy setting, right? Where there is coin, there is commerce, there is trade. There are, of course, kingdoms. Kingdoms have armies. Armies cost money. But there's also, like, for me, I think it's also interesting that there is still this kind of connection, perhaps to, especially where we are in Mulgore, to kind of these slightly older ways. So there is still, especially kind of on the frontier areas, like people have coin, but there is still a large portion of stuff that happens kind of at the barter level, or the verbal social debt level, kind of stuff. Now, obviously, you can't necessarily, unless you're like that guy, go into one of the inns and get drink on social credit. Like certain things are going to cost coin, but I want to be a little kind of freer and a little more amorphous about some of that, because I don't know, it kind of fits kind of some of the theme and the idea that at least I have in my head about things. But to Andy's question, or concern, we will you and I will, or I, or whoever, however it happens, we can address that, and we'll take a look at that and see, like, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't know everything about this setting and this and all the mechanics and rules, but we'll look at it and we'll especially right now, but we'll look at it and determine kind of how that's going to express itself
Right.
in our game in a meaningful way.
For me,
For
that
sure.
particular feature doesn't kick in until 6th level, so
Sure.
there's some time.
Sure.
Along those,
If I live that long.
Yeah.
along those lines, how do you deal with spell components? Is it
Oh man,
only
that is
that's another question.
so that's a great.
That's what
that
I
is a
assumed
great.
you were asking about.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what
So
I
that is
thought, too.
that is another great question. So we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going just a little bit, because this is very important. So consumables, be it spell components, be it food, be it ammunition for bows and arrows and that kind of stuff. In some Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition games, are super hand waved, because at some level, in some games, it's less important to the story that I track every arrow, every spell component, every day of ration, right? Some of us who have been playing Dungeons and Dragons for almost as long as others of us are old, are used to back in the day when it was like, oh yes, I have a day and a half of rations left. We're 6 days from town. Ah, shit. Like I'm used to that. But I also don't want to be super nitpicky about it. Now, to spell components, there are rules in 5th edition for dealing with spell components to a certain level, right? Because of either component pouches, or arcane focuses, or holy symbols or whatever. They kind of allow for a little bit of leeway with using spell components specifically that don't have a gold cost. So there is a function for that in place. I have I have a method that we could use to kind of rope all of these things into, that allows us to be a little bit nitpicky, but also a little bit less nitpicky about it. And I guess part of that is going to depend on what, like, do you guys want to be super nitpicky about every day of ration, every arrow, every spell component? I know for me, I think, and I've talked to some of you about this, and it may be in one of the documents that I wrote and sent out. Like, I want to be able to deal with the environment and the weather and the consequences of, like, do we travel in the snowstorm or do we try to hold up, and what that means for us and how that works out. Like, I want to be able to have those kinds of things. So there are some rules that exist for, like, cold weather gear that I'm going to change. Like, cold weather gear automatically succeeds at cold weather checks. That shit's not going to happen. There's going to be a check. You'll get better at the check, but there'll still be a check, because cold is cold, as we know here in the north. But say food. So there is. Let me explain myself. So there is a function from a rule set known as the black hack, that instead of for each of our consumable pools, we have a set of dice or add dice, right? So your arrows or your spell components of your food might be at a D8. And then at the end of an encounter or at the end of whatever set of time it is, I will call for essentially a consumables check. You know, if you use that consumable, you roll that D8 or whatever numbered dice that is. And then if you roll like say a 1 or a 2, or if it was a super long siege battle where you were firing all arrows all the time, it might be a higher number. And then if you roll that, whatever that low number is, your D8 in this instance goes down to a D6. And then you could spend money or trade or gather resources to get that back up to, say, a D8, spend time doing it. Or if you don't have that ability and you have to check again and you roll low again, it goes down to a D4. And Michael.
Sorry. I think I'm definitely okay with a system like that if we want to worry about resources. I say this because super specific tracking versus food and wilderness factors in D&D doesn't work well in my experience. I say this because I've played out of the Underdark or out of the Abyss, and between a ranger, a paladin, and a cleric at first level, you do not have to worry about food if you use the abilities as written ever.
Right. But you have to use your abilities. Either way, it's a resource, whether or not it's as trackable in your pouch or in your spellbook.
Yes, but at that point, it's not really. It doesn't feel to me like a worthwhile element.
Sure.
So if we're going to worry about that, definitely a little bit more abstracted. I'm super okay with it in the abstracted if we definitely want to do that.
So when I kill Michael's character, you guys will have to worry about it.
And then encumbrances. Are we dealing with any of that? Like, how much can we carry? What can we carry? I mean, are we already, if we're small, small stature, is that starting kit just everything we can carry for the rest of the game because we really can't carry anything more than 25 pounds and a backpack weighs 25 pounds?
So I guess, I'm gonna be a little bit honest. I'm gonna be totally honest because that's who I am. I don't actually I know that there are encumbrance rules in 5th edition, and I know that all of my D&D Beyond characters have it tracked because I clicked that box.
There's a chart under strength.
And it is horrible in a lot of ways. There's a bit to it. Like, I like giving, basically the way I've done it is either don't track it or I say everyone has the handy haversack, which allows you to carry 500, it's not the bag of holding, it's the small size bag of holding. So your backpack is magical So
for reference to the rules, I believe it's your strength score times 15 pounds is if you were going to get specific about it.
Which is crazy. which is
a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
over. Yeah, usually it's 100 to 200 pounds depending on strength.
Yeah.
So, my strength personally is probably a 13.
A tinderbox is 3 pounds. So if you're looking at any of the weight, I mean, your starting pack takes up over 50% of it if you are small or if you are not super strong to begin with. It becomes challenging. I have been weighed, with the one game that someone wanted to play encumbrances, I couldn't carry my starter supplies.
Sure.
So
my question,
so weird
I guess,
in it.
So I guess our considerations are that, and I don't necessarily know off the top of my head what the rules for Dvergar are, but none of us are mechanically small, because none of your ancestries, your specific racial archetypes are of that size. And it's up to you guys how to spend your stat points. Do you guys want to deal with encumbrance, or do we want to specifically, or do we want to deal with it is this a reasonable thing for you to be able to carry, which might require us to make narrative judgment calls. I might say something like, all right, Michael, your character, you're going to climb up this cliff. this is what you're carrying. You're going to add this other thing and climb up. Are you encumbered? Like, I'm going to, like, because and I'm all for that, but I will put it on you to make some choices. And you are, of course, free to say, I'm not encumbered or I am encumbered. And then we can work within those choices.
That would be my preferred methodology, because
Absolutely.
I think it makes the game flow better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's totally reasonable to say, like, hey, you want to carry 2 suits of armor. No. Like,
right.
you can't fit 2 suits of armor in your bag,
Yeah.
Or
and that is a good point.
You want to carry 2 dead bodies to a different location.
Or even maybe even 1, depending on how big you are. Like, you gonna lift that guy in his armor and with his weapons and stuff.
Right.
And one last,
I like the idea of encumbered versus unencumbered, and then adjudicating the rules based on that dichotomy. That seems pretty reasonable.
Okay, we can do. Yeah, we can. Yeah, I got it. I'm into it.
Keep track of that though.
Yeah. Well, it'll be like a narrative.
Gonna tell you what we have in our bag, like.
No, I think it'll. I think it. Well, so that does bring up an interesting point. One thing that I am always interested in role-playing games, primarily because I played a lot of Legend of the Five Rings, which is a fantasy kind of Japanese game, is which I think I will try to bring into this game a little bit, is that you all live in town. You either have a house or you live at a place. Not only a couple of you are specifically of a warrior class. Yes, you live in the north, but there is no real reasonable narrative reason that you need to be carrying a duffel bag of weapons, Andy, around town.
Right.
Why you gotta call him out like that? Why you gotta do that?
Runar is a collector.
I know, but so so there is something like I would like okay, it's it's Thursday or whatever day, you go to the bar. Like, are you really wearing your armor at the bar in your hometown? That kind of stuff. So there might be considerations like that, and that might lead us to some weird and difficult narrative spaces. That's me. If that's not necessarily something you guys are comfortable with, like, I'm gonna have everything on my character sheet is on me all the time. If that's the story that we want to tell, that's cool. I find that to be a problematic way to.
No, I'm all about if we're at home, things are at home. If we're in the field, they're on us. But those are different situations.
I really want to try to make, and one of the things I want to do is try to make that a hard state. Yes, and obviously there can be nuances to it, but this is how we are here. So whether or not you want to have sometimes I'll have a separate part of my inventory that'll be like, this is what is in my inventory when I go out and do this thing. This is what is in my inventory. Or I'll say, it's been a little while since I've used it in game, where I'll be like, oh, hey, we're in town. I'm at an inn. I'm leaving this shit in my inn room because I have a Foot Locker, and we're gonna go out and do this stuff in town. And then inevitably I get attacked because that's what happens.
I'll just say this: in the past, the way I've done like kits, like what's my kit right now is I'll have a note card for in town near my house, in the field on expedition, and then that just kind of lists what I have in my kit at that time.
And I think I like this idea that encumbered or unencumbered is really more of a narrative thing. Like, I'm not going to necessarily say, hey, what's in your inventory right now? But if or even if you guys individually find that it may or may not be narratively interesting for somebody to possibly be encountered because of something encumbered, because of something that we're doing, maybe it's carrying bodies, maybe it's, or whatever, like we can talk about that and role play that, and bring it up. I'm into that. Is that Ashley? Is that cool? Okay. Because at some level, as much as I might be interested in keeping track of every little thing, I'm also really not. I'm really not.
I I could go ultralight backpacking and not play
Yeah.
D&D if I wanted to do that.
Right.
You mean dirt bagging?
But
Graham counting.
I do want to be able to keep track of, like, I do think it's systematically and narratively interesting to have to tweak you guys on, say, ammo or spell components, because I want to be able to make those choices, and I think sometimes collecting those things is narratively interesting. I have a thing, I will get it to you, and we can talk about it more offline as well. I think this is a lot. We're like a half hour over. This is
Yeah.
amazing. I feel real good about everything that we've done. If any of you who's still watching, is anyone still watching?
Yeah, Phoenix just jumped on to say hi.
Phoenix, what's up, dude? If any of you are watching and don't know about Phoenix Milwaukee, go to his stream, check it out. He does a lot of really amazing stuff. He's running like Out of the Abyss, Curse of Strahd, Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's really good stuff. He's in Japan, so his streaming times are kind of, I watch him at breakfast, actually, generally when I'm eating breakfast. He seems like a super cool dude. Anyway, if you're still watching, thank you. If you're watching in the future, again, also thank you. Hey, thank you. If you're watching this for a second time, wow, really thank you. For everybody who's watching, stay tuned. This time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, next Thursday, and every Thursday, barring strange happenings that may or may not call us away, we will be here playing this game, Midwinter Keening in Svilland. It will be high in the Icelandic style family drama craziness and combat hard choices. Winter may or may not, in fact, kill at least one of the party members. You can guarantee that. I'm North Shore DM. We're the Superior Adventurers Guild. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.